this go away? I was typing something.
Dude, where were you?
Sorry, man. Had to use the bathroom. You know how that is.
Right.
Little Mexican, little Revenge of the Sith. Okay, we've got Kathryn. She's in the waiting room. Whitney, you are taking care of the stuff for all of the people that are coming.
I'm typing up the little intro thing in the chat right now, so I can just copy and paste it.
Okay, cool.
Well,
Celeste.
Started. I don't want to be starting on late each time because people come and they leave and they're always asking like, what's going on? Are you guys starting or am I missing it? So let's not, if we're going to do this, let's like kind of.
Sorry, that was my fault.
Okay.
I doubt
everybody in?
No, it was.
Okay, admit all.
I'm ready.
Here we go. Welcome everybody to the Flameless Fireside. Please feel free to mute your audio and shut off your cameras, please.
Not feel free, please do it.
So
I have to do it again?
Corner of the screen, go ahead and press stop video and go ahead and mute yourself as well. While you're in the audience, we won't have your videos on. While we are in our after party, we will have videos coming on. Just gonna let some people come in. Kathryn, how you doing tonight?
Good.
Good.
Okay, can you hear this? Like, can you hear my computer chair squeak?
Little bit, not bad.
Yes.
Not bad?
Not
Okay,
bad.
good. Then I can lean back and relax.
Yeah.
I'm surprised you're not wearing your camera.
My what?
I'm surprised you're not wearing camo.
Well, I changed it last minute. Put some paint on, camo paint.
There you go, right?
So how you doing today?
Really good. It was a good Sunday. Church changed and I forgot. So it was 11:30 last year. So I have church every 2 weeks. So 2 weeks ago, I went to church at 11:30 and it wasn't my ward. So I stayed for 1 o'clock church. And then today I went to 1:30 church thinking that was the new time. So I got there just at the end of the sacrament. And I was just like, I can't keep track. I got to put this on my calendar.
I literally did that today.
Luckily, they gave me and my girls sacrament in the bishop's office after.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, but it was good. It was good. It was a good Sunday.
They didn't used to do that. Good gracious, man.
Huh?
Yeah, if you used to show up late, then they would just be like, "Yeah, you don't get sacrament this week."
I know. Just got lucky.
I think
That's
I've had
awesome.
the sacrament 4 times in the past year. So that's probably why, because I know people need it.
Yep.
You only did the sacrament 4 times in the last year? Is that what you
Yeah,
said?
I'm a single woman. I don't have the priesthood in my home, so we don't have the sacrament.
Is your church shut down?
Yeah.
You guys aren't allowed to go to
Yeah,
church?
we still don't go to church.
Oh, wow.
Really?
Wait, you don't wear masks, but you still don't go to church?
So they split our church up. So it's like they split it into 4 parts. So we are supposed to go every 3rd Sunday. But that's usually when we're out of town. And also I've been sick for 2 months. We do Zoom church. I fell asleep today during Zoom church. I took 2 naps today and I'm still really tired. So.
Wow. Yeah, they just announced for us today that church will be every week for anyone who wants to participate. So, which will be
awesome.
interesting. It's good.
And then she had her baby. So now she has no husband and a baby and she hasn't been to church since. She's like, I don't know how to go back and like answer all the questions that are going to come. So there's going to be a lot of questions with that.
Yeah, Heidi
Yeah.
Brooks is my maiden name.
Okay.
All right, well, you know what? We're running up on to about 7 minutes past the hour. We've got about 32 people in here. Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. Flameless Fireside. Today is Sunday, January 17th, 2021. Getting to the end of the first month of the new year already. Crazy action. We've got Kathryn Brooks that is joining us this evening. Kathryn, longtime listener, first-time caller. How you doing?
Good.
Awesome. Kathryn, can you tell us where are you from?
Demographically or ethnically?
Yes.
All of it, I
both.
guess.
Psychologically.
Both.
Wait, okay. I've been waiting for this moment. So I think it was last month, Nick completely got my age wrong, like totally completely wrong. I'd even told a story that I had gone to Worlds of Fun and I had done that guessing, the guy that guesses your age, and I had won like this squid hat and I was so excited. And so it was so fun for Nick to get my age wrong. So Nick, what do you think my ethnicity is? What do you think my ethnicity
Judging by your age
Oh my goodness.
and the alignment of the lunar
Well,
sun with.
I'm thinking
All
about
of
like 47% African American, probably 22% Irish, and
Okay. I'm a half and half.
oh, you're 50-50?
I'll give you half. Half of me is Caucasian. So half of me is like the whole Heinz 57 thing. So the other half of me is something else.
Well, you got kind of that tannish skin, you got like brown hair, got the brown eyes, so I'm thinking Native American.
Yeah.
My mother was born in Seoul, Korea, and she was adopted in the States. But
So, So African?
Korean.
Korean.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Wait, are you saying you were born on the South Pole? Korea, Nick.
Wow. Okay, I'm not gonna ask Nick anything else. He doesn't know his continents. That's why
Okay,
he
Nick,
gets it
how old
wrong.
is she?
All right, she's 47.
I know the answer
My-
to this.
Oh, Whitney doesn't know my age, does she?
No,
I
she
don't.
doesn't. So
I-
Whitney, you can guess.
I don't
She's
think
got
47
6
for
kids.
sure.
I know this one.
39.
I'll be 46 in October.
Really? You look
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, ancient, this one.
Shit. Okay,
Got to look at the bags.
Oh, I have bags too. I think I've aged 20 years in the past 2 weeks.
Right?
in 45 years, 2 people have gotten my ethnicity right. 2 people, and they were both Korean war vets. Can you believe that? I have no idea how they spot on knew I was half Caucasian, half Korean, but even Asians don't know I'm part Asian. I identify myself as ambiguous. I look like I could be anything, but I fit in.
Kind of are, yeah.
So
You could probably
is.
tell us anything and we'd be like, oh, okay, yeah.
yeah, when I went to college in South Carolina, oh my gosh, they had to know what I was like before I could even start taking their order. And it's just a Southern thing. Like racism isn't quite as much as it was, but like 20 years ago when I was in college, it still was. I don't know. They had to know what I was to be comfortable, and I'd always make them guess. And it was like Hawaiian, Italian, Black. Like I got the whole gambit. But anyway,
I could see Hawaiian. I could see somebody guessing that.
that's
Yeah.
one of my favorite ones. Polynesian, Hawaiian. I eat like a Polynesian, so might as well.
Did you eat poi?
No, I was offered poi. And you talk about the balut eggs. My brother dated a girl who ate those, but she also ate the I think they're called millennial eggs. They're the ones that have that thick black center that tastes, it's like a peanut butter consistency. They're like,
I've heard of those.
yeah, there's a name. So she had my brothers eat those
Gross.
ones.
Yeah, I think the name is like disgusting. I think that's what they're called. You just don't eat stuff like that.
What's the Polynesian food? It's like, so I don't know what it is, but it's some kind of like liquidy type thing that's kind of thick and white and you like pour it over bread.
I think it's
Is
poi.
that what that is?
I had a companion from Hawaii, and I think that she just never I think she was offended by me because I wouldn't try it. And so we just never got along.
Okay, so I have tried it and it was really good. It really was, but I'm not joking. Like it looked like a cup full of sperm.
That does
Like my
not look
friend was
good.
like trying to get me to eat it. And I was like, I can't.
Yeah, I couldn't do it.
I don't
It
know
did
what
taste
this
good
is.
though.
but
It is good.
Okay,
millennial
so Nick,
eggs, gross.
so ethnically, where I'm from, like the States, but I'm half Caucasian, half Korean. But demographically, I've lived in 21 different places. So I've lived everywhere.
Where do you live now?
I live outside of Kansas City now.
Okay.
Are you a Chiefs fan?
I am, and Mahomes got a concussion.
I know he did. I'm hoping he's out the next game so they'll lose.
In fact,
Bills.
there was a podcast. I remember that podcast way back when the Chiefs stomped the Colts, I believe it was. Sorry, not sorry.
Chiefs kind of stomp like everybody this year. They're good. And I do like Patrick Mahomes. He's kind of a stud, but they're the Broncos rivals, so I have to root against them. I mean, it's kind of like in my DNA.
That's right. It's the Broncos.
Yeah.
Damn.
Well, it is what it is. So anyways, well, tell us a little bit about you. You've lived in 22 different places. Well, first of all, the question that I did have is, do you speak any Korean?
I don't. I speak a little bit of things, but no Korean.
Have you ever been there?
No, not yet.
Go back to the motherland?
I really wanted to serve a mission there to see like where my mother spent the first little while. I think she went straight to an orphanage after she was born.
Oh.
So I was able to, on my mission, I was able to have her send me copies of her birth records or her records.
Uh-huh.
And the Korean sisters were able to help me piece together as much as they could find out about her, but the spaces for parents and siblings were blank. So it would take a lot of time. I bought my mom a DNA test, and there were 2 third cousins that she's related to, but it wasn't enough. It'll take time to maybe eventually find the village she was born in. Just more DNA tests.
Gotcha. Well, interesting. So now you said your mom came over when she was little. Is that right?
Yeah.
So she didn't have an accent. She didn't like speak Korean in the home or anything growing up.
So we don't know. I don't know the whole story because she was adopted 3 times in the States.
Wow.
I know. So the first family only fed her watermelon, which I think was kind of a racism thing. But her fingers had gotten caught in the car window and they didn't do anything about it. And she had to go to the hospital. And so they pulled her out of that family. And then the second
That's for
family,
the best.
they made
You
her.
say they didn't do anything about it. Was she like driving around with her hands stuck
Like
in there?
stuck in there the entire time.
They,
like,
crushed
she was
it or?
screaming, and they didn't like stop the car until like way later when she was like had to go to the hospital for whatever for a finger, So then the second family taught her how to run her own bath, and she accidentally ran it all hot, and the mother made her walk to the front of the tub to turn it to cold. And so she ended up in the hospital with sores on her legs. I know. It's
Wow.
So when she was 5, she was adopted. So she started in Pennsylvania. I think they had like flown these orphanage babies to the States, and they ended up in Pennsylvania first. So she was in Pennsylvania first, and then she was somewhere else, and then she ended up in Hawaii. And she was adopted when she was 5 in Hawaii. And she did speak Korean, but she lost it all. So I'm not sure at what age she was flown. So she did speak Korean, but she lost it all. And then she did do that orphanage thing where she'd always stuff food under her, like she'd always hoard food, like stuff it under, hide it in her room and stuff like that.
Squirrel it away.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I feel so sad for her.
I know.
That's a orphanage behavior? I didn't know this.
Yes.
Okay.
That's because they only get, well, I don't know much about orphanages. I just know that a lot of people that lived in orphanages or whatever, it's just like a habit that they take with them. Or I think it also can apply to other situations where just a child's kind of like in a survival mode, kind of. But
Sure.
anyway,
Trauma
So-
So
response.
she was adopted 4 or 5 times, and
3
then
times.
was she raised by one family for a good duration of her life?
She was raised by my adoptive grandmother, by my grandmother. And
Okay.
How old was she when they adopted her?
she was 5.
Okay.
Okay. So
They were
this was one
LDS,
of
I'm
the
taking
wives.
it, right?
No, she joined the church when she was 18 by a couple of really cute elders.
Hmm.
Learn to convert. That's the way. Yeah.
She what was I gonna say? Oh, so when we were growing up, when we were little, I was like 10 years old when I found out she was Korean. So growing up, we'd be like, "Hey mom, look at that Asian lady," and she'd be like, "Oh my gosh." And so it was like when I was 10, I found out she was Korean, and then I was like, it finally clicked, like my grandmother is Lebanese. Like she could
Wow.
not have had my Korean mother. So my grandmother's is a short, squat, beautiful Lebanese woman. And my mom's like really tall for Korean. She's like 5'8", 5'9". And I was 10 when I finally put the two together, because she finally told us, she's like, "I'm Asian too." And we're like, "What?"
Wow.
Well, hey, how are we supposed to know you're Korean if you didn't even know?
I know, right? So, okay, so my mom joined the church when she was 18. My dad's family converted when he was 8. My dad joined the army as soon as he turned 18, and he was going to go inactive, so he decided to go to one church dance and then go inactive. And he looked across the room and he saw my mom and he stayed active.
He threw a Hail Mary and she was it, huh?
There you go.
All right.
That's interesting because I feel like in general, church dances would make people want to go inactive.
That's what happens to me. I'm
Never
like,
mind.
So I was born at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. I was born at the Army base in Fayetteville. And then my dad was in PA school. So that's how he became a physician's assistant. He did it through the Army. So we lived in Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and then we lived in Fort Lewis, Washington. And so that we were 100 miles away from Mount St. Helens when it blew. I was 5 years old when Mount St. Helens blew. And then we lived in Fort Sam, Texas. And that's where I learned to always shake your shoes. You always turn your shoes
Scorpions?
upside down. In Texas,
Scorpions and spiders.
you shake your shoes. Cockroaches, scorpions, tarantulas, whatever.
How did you learn that?
Somebody else who does know that there are tarantulas in Texas.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
How did you learn that? Was there a special experience that really solidified that lesson for you?
Nope. It was just my dad telling me.
No, not as cool. All right.
Oh, I know.
My
I
nephew
know.
got stung by a scorpion in Texas because it was just in the blanket.
I did
And
almost step
bad.
on
He
a
had to go to the
tarantula once,
hospital.
though. And
You
that
did
was in Nevada, though. I almost stepped on a tarantula in Nevada. Like just almost, my foot almost just right smack dab in the middle of it.
That's like saying that you almost stepped on a brick. Those things are huge.
On a what?
On a
It's almost
brick.
like saying I almost stepped on a brick. How do you not see it? It's like they're huge.
So it was the tarantula. So
Yes,
it-
the tarantula.
It was dark and I had to take the trash out. And so I leaped down the stairs. I think I like jumped down all 5 stairs and then I was padding up all 5 and it was like, whoa. It's like, so I jumped over it when I went to take out the trash and I was running up the stairs. I like skipped the step. It was a really good size. And then I wanted my dad to kill it. So he told us not to, and he put it off. Well, the next morning he opened up the door and it shot into the house.
Oh my gosh.
It went
Well, I
to the
wanted you to adopt it. It's like one of those stray dogs that comes around. It's like,
exactly.
hey,
It had like a little collar. It was like,
nice.
feed me.
What'd you name it?
You know, we never saw it again. Even like,
Oh, that's cool. When it runs into your house and then you can't find it, you just never
Yeah,
find it
you never
again.
saw it again in the house, or you got it out first and then never saw
no,
it again.
I
Right.
never saw it again. So it ran to the bookcases. I was paranoid of those bookcases for the rest of the time we lived there. And then I had to box them up when we moved. And I was just like carefully taking all these books down. It was totally gone. There was no trace of it. Nothing.
That's funny. I see somebody in the audience is like, we don't have those here in Houston. Yeah, you definitely have tarantulas in Houston. Absolutely. So yeah, it's kind of funny. So
Yep.
I'm my grandparents, all my family's from Texas. I'm originally from Texas. That's where I was born. So spent a lot of time down there with the big spiders, the big snakes, all the reptiles, lots of fun stuff. So I just had this conversation with Celeste the other day, who had no idea that there were tarantulas in Texas. I'm like, yeah, there are definitely tarantulas in Texas. So
Okay, so where I lived in DFW, there are fire ants everywhere, but I don't.
Yep.
But are they? So you have the same thing there in Houston? Yes.
oh, yeah, I'm sure in Houston they do. Yeah. I mean, I live in Washington now, but
Yeah.
yeah, they had fire ants growing up. I mean, all my childhood was spent going back to Texas. So all my aunts, uncles, grandparents, everybody's down in Texas. I'm related to like half of Texas. So everything in Texas is like, yeah, fire ants, tarantulas, snakes, especially water moccasins, copperheads. Those are fun. Yeah.
When
When
my
When I was in Houston, Texas, on my mission, one of the things that the senior missionaries would do, like more experienced missionaries would do to haze the new greenies, would they take us out into a field and we'd find a fire ant hill, and your job was to take your hand and put it in the fire ant hill and shake it around a bunch and then leave it there for as long as you could.
that is so.
I never did that,
stupid.
but I saw
Right.
pictures and I was like, you guys are idiots.
So living in Kansas, I love watching my children like run through fields of grass because I can just let them run. In Texas, I always had to stand by and be ready, and I always had bleach in my car because if some of my kids were allergic, so they'd get like those little blisters, and you have to put bleach on them to like
They get chiggers and stuff.
Yep,
Oh, in Kansas though, we have oak mites. It's awful.
Is that the
Like-
same idea, the chigger?
So oak mites come from the oak tree, and they just come down like invisible snowflakes, and they land on you and bite you. And then
Oh,
you don't
fun.
know till a couple days later when you find the little welts.
The gift that
Nice.
keeps on giving.
Interesting.
But
Nice.
when we moved here, I was so excited to get away from fire ants. And my ex told me, he said, we are trading fire ants for spiders, because he's from Kansas. And I was like, I don't even know what that means. Oh my gosh, Kansas has so many spiders. Like Halloween, trick-or-treating, they are out of full force. Their webs are everywhere. You go in the street to the driveway. You cannot cut through yards because they've got like these drag lines from the tree to the grass. All these garden spiders, it's just, you just wait for that freeze to hit when they're just like not outside anymore. So many spiders in Kansas.
You know, I've always wondered growing up, everything we learn in the scriptures, like everything was created spiritually before it was created physically. I'm like, you know, if everything goes to the exact same planet, there's going to be a crap ton of spiders and ants and all kinds of stuff. And I'm like, do they get their own planet? Can they just go somewhere else so we don't
Yeah,
have to
because
live
they
with
were
those guys?
created once the fall of Adam to just annoy us. So obviously they're not going to be in heaven with us.
I don't think God's like, okay, I'm kicking you guys out. And by the way, here's a little token just as kind of like a in your face. I'm going to make this thing called spiders. You're going to really hate them. I don't think that's how that works, but
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you want to know more places I lived?
Yes, go ahead. Sorry.
Okay. So Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, and then we moved to Germany for 5.5 years. And
Oh.
so
How'd you
we
like
were-
that?
Huh?
How'd you like Germany?
I liked it a lot. Ich spreche ein bisschen Deutsch, aber das ist alles. And I
Oh.
can also count to 10.
Yeah.
Right, that I-
Farpignugan, Volkswagen.
there you go. Volkswagen. Yes.
I speak German too. Not really.
Woo!
My brother lives there right now. He and his
Where?
family. So
We're at.
that's a good question. I don't know what the name of the city is. I'll have to ask him. He works for Adidas over there for their marketing department in the soccer division, whatever. Football. Sorry, not
Football.
soccer. Yeah. But yeah, they're learning German, and he sends me pictures and everything from time to time. And yeah, it's a good question. He's probably told me before, and I'm just like, oh, that's cool. I have no idea where that's at. Whatever. So
We were stationed at Stuttgart, Neuilm, Berlin, and then we moved from Berlin the week after the wall fell.
I'm just gonna let you know that Kansas would not be the place for me. Spiders are not my thing. I'm not okay with them. I think that they are one of the mistakes that God made. I mean, he was like, all right, insects. All right, we got 6 legs, and then somebody like misheard somewhere along the line. They're like, oh, 8 legs, got it. And he's like, no, it can't have flying 8-legged things. He's like, no, we'll just make these ones crawl. No, not okay. I have really bad experiences with them. All right, sorry, Berlin Wall. You were there when it went down?
I was. I have to say, I have to go back to spiders. They have a joint like at each part of their leg. So it just makes them just even more awful. When I was student teaching, I had to do the unit on spiders, and I was like, okay, for 2 weeks, I'm best friends with spiders, and then it's game over. Back to killing any of you that invade my home. So I had to learn everything about them. Yeah, they have like 48 joints.
Up in
Yeah.
Washington and Tri-State, where I was growing up, where there were spiders that would always get into the house. And so what I would do, I don't squish them. I don't go after them. I stay away from them as far as I can. And if I ever didn't like them enough, I'd go get the vacuum cleaner and get out the long extension hose and just suck them up. That was kind of my way of getting rid of spiders.
You only have one shot to kill a spider, because if you miss, it will get away and it will tell all of its people.
Yeah,
Nick's
I'll say
favorite
that.
color is also pink. So just for anybody that's wondering, if you leave a spider, he's still around. I had a lot of spiders in my house. They were mostly the Great North American flat spider, because that's what they turned into as soon as I could find them. I have no problem squishing a spider, grabbing a spider, with toilet paper or something, flushing them down the toilet, whatever. But I'm not just gonna leave them or stay far away from them. They are going to be leaving my house.
Yes.
So they're flat or one way or the other. So
Intruders will die, basically.
Interesting. All right, so
Kathryn,
Berlin
tell us
Wall.
what's happening with your life now. Where are you at?
Yeah.
Divorced? What's going on?
So we separated a year ago. This week, I think. It's been a year. And then we finalized it in April. So it's almost been a year since I've been officially divorced.
and how
So
long were
since
you
you-
married?
For 20 years.
Okay.
Temple
So
marriage.
there's-
I assume.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of people that'll say for every month that you've been married that you need to wait that long. For every year that you're married, you just wait a month. So are you waiting 20 months before you start getting out there to date again?
That looks like a smile that says no.
So I decided to sign up on Bumble the night of the finalization of my divorce. I just kind of cannonballed into the singles world.
When you signed up, were you just kind of celebratory, it's over finally? Or were you just okay, I feel there's a piece missing and now I need to kind of start jumping into the scene and figuring this whole thing out?
So the last 5 weeks before the divorce was finalized was awful. my ex hadn't looked at the paperwork, and then he finally opened it and he's like, I don't like the wording on this and this and this and this. And I had done so much research, and I had done so much that we could file without lawyers. And he was like, I don't like this and I don't like that. And so he just wanted to change wording every day. And he said, I don't want to set a court date until I'm 100% ready. And I'm like, well, we set the court date when we filed, and nobody can be 100% ready. And it was just really, really wearing on me. And I went to my psychologist and I was like, I'm really struggling. And she's like, Kathryn, you need something to look forward to after the divorce.
So you
And
found
I
a
said,
makeout buddy?
Huh?
So you found a makeout buddy?
No.
You
Make
took
out with somebody
something
tonight?
to mean someone.
I decided that I wanted to date and do all the things I didn't get to do while I was married. Because while we were married, there was always a reason why we could hardly ever go out or do anything. We really only went out twice a year. We went out for our anniversary, and then we went to the work Christmas party. And so it just never worked out. And I waited and I waited. And then all of a sudden in marriage therapy, it turns out that he really was putting me off to save money. And I was like, and so I decided that when I was officially divorced, I just wanted to go out and do the things I didn't get to do while I was married.
Yep. That's fair.
And so my best friend was my accountability buddy. Like, she coached me through it. So she told me where to go and which one to sign up first for. And I would check in with her with all the conversations I was having, and she would help me with like, I didn't know who I was attracted to. I didn't know who was attracted to me. I didn't know what
I've never heard of an
How do you not
accountability
know who
buddy
you're
for
attracted
dating apps.
How did I not know how? Wait, what? Wait. Okay,
Go
Whitney.
ahead. Whitney's question first. Go ahead.
I've never heard of an accountability buddy for dating apps. Like,
I-
how did you come up with that?
So she had been a widow. She was widowed like 5 years before I got divorced. And
Okay.
after 5 years, she decided to date. And then she would share all those things with me. And so when I told her I wanted to just jump into it, she said, well, there's a lot of things I learned and I can help you. And I'm like, okay, yes, please help me. And
Interesting.
so,
That's what we need to do. We need to set up a program for all newly divorced people to have like a buddy, like a mentor program.
she was my dating coach. Okay, Everett, what did you say?
How do you
I
not
don't even
know who
remember
you're
now.
attracted to?
Oh,
Yeah. How do you know? Yeah. I mean, how does that even happen? You look at somebody and you're like, okay, I'm kind of attracted to them.
so I mean, I could look at a person and be like, God did a really good job on that one, but then I'd move on. Like, I never really had like a type because I was married and I didn't think about it. I didn't.
Okay. So
Right.
how old were you when you got married then? It sounds like you were like right out of high school, practically, maybe first year of college sort of thing.
You mean like totally naive?
No, I just mean like, it sounds like if you don't know, then like you just kind of jumped in, like you never had a type. You're like, well, this guy's throwing some attention my way, so let's just kind of see where it goes sort of thing. So you might have dated a whole random bunch of people, just kind of whoever popped up.
So I served a mission.
Okay, congratulations. So it was after your mission. Is that what you're trying to say?
Good job.
Not 18 and straight out of high school. I didn't go from a diploma to a ring.
Okay.
Yeah, just kind of let that one hang for a second.
Yeah.
Yes, I was naive, but I was more mature than an 18-year-old. So I was 24. I was 24 when I got married.
Okay.
And when so the first time around when I dated, it was just guys that I shared common interests with. I was attracted to, I generally gravitated toward like the medium height, trim, quiet, dark, handsome ones.
Okay, now wait a second. There's a lot of guys that are going to listen to this and go medium height. Okay, does that mean I've got a chance? So what do you consider medium height? Because there's a lot of
5'9".
guys. 5'9".
5'9". I'm 5'5".
Okay. So
Yeah, so
5'9" is 5'8", guys. I mean,
5'8" is my limit.
5'8" your limit?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I'm just saying because we get a lot of guys on here that like are 5'8", 5'9", and they're kind of like, well, why do girls always have this thing? Like, well,
Wait,
I'm sorry.
Nick is 5'9". Wow.
5'9".
Wait a minute.
And Whitney?
Are you really
Yes.
5'9", Nick?
I am 5'9".
Okay. You seem shorter to me than that. I don't know.
Did you say he seems shorter?
Well, yeah, I don't know.
I have a short personality.
Yeah.
Celeste. I love you, Celeste. Celeste is my Texas buddy. I mean, we lived there at different times. I lived there before her, but I was like 5 miles away from where she lives now. So I totally know her area.
Heidi had the point. You
And
really
you knew
only
there
ever
was tarantulas there.
I'll kill all your tarantulas for you, Celeste. We'll be best buds.
love it.
Okay, so I didn't have, yes, BFFs. So I didn't know, so when I first did the dating thing, I didn't feel an attraction to any of the guys. Like,
Okay, did you feel an attraction to any of
This
the
time
girls?
around, or like when
Like
you were
this
young?
time around.
Okay.
And so I'd say, hey, you're really fun to talk to. I'm not looking for a relationship. I'm talking to guys. I said, if you want to just hang out, because we had common interests, I said, I would love to, but I'm not looking for anything. And then I would ignore them. And then after a few days, they'd be like, hey, I totally respect that. And we can just hang out and go out and, do whatever. But that's not really what they meant. So
What did they mean?
what they meant was,
Everyone knows hang out means sex. Everyone knows that.
No,
It's like
okay.
Netflix and chill. Like that's common knowledge.
Not to somebody that's been married for 20 years.
Apparently,
I
that's why you
did-
needed a dating coach.
exactly. So I actually put myself on my first date. Like I was just terrified. I didn't know how to just jump in. So the number one reason why I wanted to jump into the singles world is because I wanted to know how the singles world worked. I wanted to know where I fit in, and I wanted to know what to watch for, because I hate surprises. I wanted to know the patterns. I wanted to know what the singles are like, what the single men are like out there. And so I just wanted to learn, and I wanted to understand, and I wanted to protect and prepare myself.
I
And
don't
also
know that there's any
out
way
what-
to prepare yourself for the
No,
single.
there's not. But you can
Kinda going
figure
the
it.
sun
Terrible and
out.
really fun and awful.
So one of the first guys I talked to was a really sweet guy. And
What was his name?
his name was Mark.
Oh, what was his last name? We'll look him up on Facebook right now.
Nick's trying to figure out who his competition is here.
Mark. Look at
Mark, that son of a. We'll find him. What's his last name again? Yeah.
I actually, one of the guys I did go on a date with, but I told him it didn't count as a date because he was separated. He actually has an article that he had me Google before we met again.
Like about a criminal history, or what kind of article?
Yeah, about his, I don't think he got arrested for it, but it was in the news, a thing he did.
Interesting. I mean, good for him for like being forthcoming about that, but
Yeah,
it's a lot.
yeah.
I like doing that when I first meet somebody, like before I actually get involved with them. I send them my entire medical history.
There you go.
Yeah.
I do that. I'm like, here's all of my issues.
Yeah.
Feel interested?
Now, this is something coming from the audience that, I think it's from, it's scrolling too fast. I think it just went up. I think it was from Kathryn. You sound very type A or very analytical. How would you, I don't know if you've ever done any of the personality profiles, type A or red, or, an Enneagram or Myers-Briggs, even for like a work study sort of thing. So how would you kind of classify yourself?
So my Enneagram, I'm 99% investigator.
Okay, but what number is it on the Enneagram?
1.
You're a 1.
I'm a 1 and a 5. So I'm a 1, I'm an investigator, and I'm a 5, I'm a perfectionist, as in there are rules to follow. Like there's an order for things.
What happens when someone breaks the rules? Do they get naughty? they get
Oh,
spanked.
snap.
I'm just wondering.
I don't think the Enneagram covers that.
Oh, I'm pretty sure that was like in section 4 of paragraph 19 or something.
So FYI, there is like a sex test that's similar to that, like your sex personality.
Oh, really?
Really?
I have not.
If
Okay.
anyone's
you have to send
interested.
that one.
Oh, all right.
Wait, what are we talking
I
about?
haven't done that one yet. So,
Oh.
okay. So,
Yes, I took
But
this.
have you always
Yeah,
been
right?
very analytical in your whole life? Because I've never met anybody who goes through and like, okay, I don't understand the dating world, so I've got to like literally break it down. Like I could see you the way you're talking, like creating flow charts and like diagrams, like,
As
okay,
a spreadsheet.
this is how it goes first. Yeah. Like, okay, wait a minute. Where does this fit in on my formula here?
I'm not organized enough to do flowcharts. So I have a lot of things in my head, but okay, so I've always had an insatiable curiosity. Like I was born with just this insatiable curiosity to understand and learn and see and do and feel. Life to me is a puzzle, and like some of them you can't figure out, but usually I get them right. Get the puzzles right.
So what have you figured out about the LDS mid-singles dating scene?
Okay, when I joined the 35 and wiser group, so my best friend Rachel had told me, she would tell me about it, and I'd be like, Rachel, it sounds like a dating app. And she's like, no, it's totally not. There's this and this, and she'd tell me another thing. I'd be like, Rachel, it sounds like a dating app. And she's like, no, not at all. It's just a place where we can come together and talk and stuff like that. And so when I stopped dating, I was doing just more like group things. And so I joined the group, and I just remember scrolling through it, and I was like, it just feels so unhappy here. Like I just, and maybe it was just like a day when everyone was weighing in on things that they're struggling with, but I just
Like a Monday.
like a Monday, totally
Yeah,
a
like any
Monday.
day.
I just scrolled through it, and I'm like, where's the joy? Like who is happy with like making the most of who they are and where they are in life? And so that's why I did my very first post on the back of that truck in camo.
When you did that very first post, did Celeste see it?
She didn't.
Did
I
Celeste
was not
see it?
warned.
Okay.
I was not warned.
For those of you that don't know, Celeste is kind of like the cute chick that's looking out for all the other cute chicks. And the second that she sees somebody post, she's like, "Oh, honey, you're gonna be getting your inbox flooded with a bunch of eligible suitors coming your way." So, what happened after that? Tell us that story.
So when I posted, I said, what are you doing this weekend that makes your soul happy? Because I just like, I'm a very balanced person, and I just felt like the group needed joy, and I loved it. It was so fun to see what people were doing that brings them joy. And I got a lot of messages and Facebook friend requests, and I was like, Rachel, it is a dating app.
Yeah. You know, it's funny in those groups, oftentimes it's sort of a battle of like misery. It's like, well, let me see if my dating misery or my divorce misery can top yours. And so it's kind of like everybody just regurgitates their pain onto those.
It doesn't have to be that way. I mean, what you focus on grows, and I choose to focus on the light. Like,
I think it's important to remember that everyone in there is at different places, like as far as
yes.
our journey. So yes, there is times where I'm just like, I don't want to listen to any of this because you guys are all still in the beginning stages, the whining stages.
Debbie
For
Downers.
that. Yeah. But I mean, everybody needs a place to kind of let that out. That's part of the healing process.
So I didn't know why I should join, but I felt my intuition told me to join the 35 and Wiser group, and I really like focusing on the positivity. But it was like the next, I think it was like that day, you guys reached out to me and you're like, hey, we do this podcast and we interview people that do a lot of things, and do you want to do it? And I was like, that sounds slightly terrifying. Okay. I'm all about facing
You haven't been in this group for very long. This is fairly recent.
Yeah, so that was back in, I think, November when I joined, and I've followed all the podcasts since. I think I'm all caught up. I think there's one I haven't watched yet. And
well, not including all the ones Nick hasn't posted yet.
well, I've watched all the ones that he hasn't posted yet. So I've because
Okay.
I caught on. So
Being involved.
when I found the podcast, I was like, this is why I was supposed to join the 35 and Wiser, to find about the podcast, because the perspective of this podcast is just so therapeutic for me, to give me words for things that I didn't know there were words for. I mean, without Whitney, I would have never known there was a hoe phase.
Dude, how does nobody know about the hoe phase? Like that's
I have
like
no
number
idea.
one.
See,
That's
and
what
because of
all-
the podcast, you know not to tell someone to come over and Netflix and chill.
Exactly.
Just saying.
Or
because
or
it's
hang
never
out.
been- Right, right.
There
See,
are those.
you gotta
Well,
know,
you know,
how
if
involved.
if that's what you want, then that's how you order it.
Yeah, there's your code.
So
Sure, unless you want it, of course, but
my intuition told me when I joined Bumble was to not tell guys I had just finalized my divorce. Like, it just felt like a really bad idea. So I did a rule from my mission. So I served on Temple Square, and on day one
Of
of
course you did.
serving on, what's that supposed to mean?
You know what they say, only the cute ones do.
I was not one of the
Never
cute
heard
ones.
that.
All I'm saying is that I've gone to Temple Square and I've seen the sister missionaries there, and I'm like, yep, yeah, all of these guys are here for, marketing purposes for the church.
That wasn't me. I just made the really pretty ones look prettier. I was regular.
I
Anyway.
don't believe that.
Anyway, so on Temple Square, day one, you learn that you have been on your mission for either under a year or over a year. So on day one, I had been on my mission for under a year, because Temple Square sisters tended to categorize each other by how long they had been out.
Sure.
And so it cleared the playing field. But then we got a new mission president and he changed that. So when I first started dating, I just said I had been divorced for under a year.
So if I'm to understand you correctly, you learned how to lie on your mission.
I did.
Got
And
it.
it has
And
blessed
so-
my life so much.
Sounds like a valuable life skill.
Okay, Whitney. So I did my 4 months proselyting in Idaho.
Okay. Where
I
at?
served in Idaho Falls. And I thought of you because I got to go to Shelley, Idaho.
So you actually know where it is. Most
I
people
do.
don't.
I know where it is. I love it there. One of my mission classmates. So in the MTC, there were Temple Square sisters and there were California elders, and we were in a district together. And so one of them was an Elder Stosich, and he was from Shelley, Idaho. And I got permission
Know
to
that
go
name.
say hi to his family.
You know his first name?
I think it was Bruce, but he would have been my age.
It still sounds familiar. Like I know the name, definitely.
I think there's a lot of
I know.
Stosiches around
Yes, there is.
That's
So-
like 20 years older than you, Whitney. So you probably
No,
don't
it's
know.
not. It's not that much older.
there. Okay, so do you know Reed's Dairy?
Oh, definitely.
He was the ward mission leader when I was serving there.
Okay.
So I got to go to the dairy and I got to pet the calves and I had potato ice cream, and I Googled it and
Potato
it's
ice cream.
potato
What the
ice cream.
What is potato ice cream? That sounds disgusting.
That
Ice
does
cream
sound
is
disgusting.
Good.
It's good.
It's good.
But like, so Reed's Dairy does make like just regular ice cream also, and it is the best ice cream ever. It's so good.
So good.
Gracious. We've got like a bunch of Idahoans in the chat today.
I know, because
Nice.
Idaho's
Nice.
it.
Representing Idaho.
Idaho rocks.
Did we accidentally like post this to just some Idaho group or something like that? Are we live streaming it to Idaho?
Yes.
What the heck's going on?
Yeah, we're live streaming to the entire Idaho population right now. They're all here.
Maybe.
Eating potato ice cream was a greenie thing. So my companion brought me to, she was like, just try this. So it was like, I was supposed to be surprised because it was different, and it wasn't that much different. But then when I got my greenie, I took her to Reed's Dairy. So Brother Reed, like, that was fun for him to see someone try potato ice cream for the first time.
That's so fun.
That's pretty cool.
But yeah.
So I
So-
wonder, like, around what time were you in Shelley?
I
Like,
was
you
in
were right next to
Idaho.
each other.
I was in Idaho in the summer of 1997 during the sesquicentennial. So I got to go to all the pioneer parties.
Okay.
I stick pooled all the youth and I beat them all.
You don't even look like you know what that is, Whitney.
I do. 1997.
Okay.
I was trying to think, how old was I in
It was just like-
1997? I was like, okay, I was
I
just
was-
10 years
okay.
old.
You're like, was I walking yet in 1997?
No, I was trying to do some math. I would have been 10 years old at that time. So I'm trying to think, okay, where would we have run into each other at the time that I was 10? Like obviously at a church thing. I don't know. What are the odds that
I know, right? What are the odds? Like I
probably
was
did.
over,
She could have been your babysitter. It was great.
I
I was over the whole stake. We had a big area.
So
And
I'm
then
curious,
What is
you went-
missionary work like over in Eastern Idaho? I mean, I can't imagine. I always think of you've seen that movie, The Singles Ward, right? Where he's like, he gets his mission call and it's like to Boise, Idaho, and everyone's like, oh, that's great.
I need a map.
Yeah. Like, all right, that sucks.
Pretty
But
much it.
yeah, congratulations, Elder.
So,
Get him.
okay, so as a missionary, I really was excited for the opportunity to fly on an airplane like missionaries do in a big airport. Well, I went from my dad dropped me off at the MTC. I drove a shuttle to Temple Square, and then I drove a crop duster to Idaho. So I never got the full airplane, big airport experience. But when I was serving in Idaho, our mission president had opened up the discussions to everyone. So I was teaching 40 discussions a week.
Wow.
Nice.
And I was actually, so I know a little bit of sign language. I learned some here and there. And I was able to teach the discussions in sign language to an 8-year-old. Before
Good. Devil. Bad. Baptized?
I had somehow found the discussions in sign as a coloring book. It was before I went to Idaho. I just had acquired it somehow. I don't know how. And so what happened was my companion played the piano in Relief Society and I signed a song. Like it was the one that everybody can sign. No, it was a different one. I signed a song and this mom came up to me. I can't remember what it was now. But anyway, a mom came up to me and she said, could you please teach my son the discussions? She said, I'm his teacher, I'm his mom. I have to tell him to, get ready for bed. When it comes to teaching him the gospel, he won't listen. And so I just was blessed to do just enough that he could ask questions and things were clicking for him. And his mom just cried. Like, it was just such a godsend that it was, and I couldn't do it now, but that was just a really, really neat experience. Temple Square were different experiences. I was stalked and proposed to, and Steve Young put his arms around me. And
Wait. I want to know this proposal story. How does this work? I'm picturing like two sister missionaries. They're on Temple Square, and some guy comes up and he's like, "You're hot." And he just gets down on one knee, like, "Will you marry me?" You're like, "What just happened?" Tell us the story.
He's probably deaf.
You would be surprised.
I would be surprised. I am surprised.
So I think the rule is you have to be with your companion now, but the rule when I was there is as long as you were within the 4 gates, you could go wherever you wanted by yourself.
Nice.
So that was really a blessing for me because I had a lot of companions that didn't want to work, which was fine. Like we go through the gates and I can go get to work. So there was a guy I'd run into and I had talked to him for a little bit. You get a lot of less actives that are struggling, and somehow he found me a second time and talked to me more. And then he found me a third time. I mean, people can search Temple Square all day and not find the missionary that they're looking for. And I don't know how he kept running into me.
Obviously it was fate.
Yeah, fate.
Right.
Which fate? And so he would ask me questions and I keep everything vague because he kept asking me my name, my first name and stuff like that. And so then it was one day he was talking to me and he's like, "You're just so amazing. And you're this and this and this and this. Will you marry me?" I just stood there and he's like, "I'm just kidding, unless you want to." And I was like, "I have a meeting. I gotta go."
That's
So,
like those kidding, not kidding questions.
so I let the sisters know. And so then the sisters would be like, "Hey, what's his name is around?" And so I'd go off to like the break room or whatever till he was gone.
So he would come back like multiple days.
Oh, he
Not
kept
just,
looking
like,
for
in
me
one
after
day.
that. Yeah. So sometimes they kind of become squatters in a way where they just kind of keep coming to keep feeling good and keep talking to the sisters. So Temple Square has a secret code to get security when you are in an unsafe situation. And I did have to use it once.
Is it Coriantema?
No, it is, "North, please bring me my scriptures." And security goes, boom.
Wow.
So what was the situation when you had to use it?
So I was at the ticket desk in the Joseph Smith Memorial Building all by myself. It was night. And there's this guy, and we kind of all knew a little bit about him. He had wrestled with the son of the morning and had won the fight. And
Oh yeah, Scary Larry. He probably came around regularly, right?
There you go. And he came over to the ticket desk and he was talking, and it was, it was harmless, but then he was like getting so worked up about something. And I was like, oh my gosh, like he's getting really contentious. Like he's getting himself really worked up into like anger, and I'm all by myself and I'm starting to freak out because nobody's coming in or out of the building. Sisters aren't coming down the stairs. And I was like, you know what? That reminds me of a scripture. And I picked up the phone and I was like, "North, could you please bring me my scriptures?" And in like 5 seconds, there was a security guard that came down the stairs, one that came through the dining room, two that came through the front doors, one that came down the hallway. And I was just like, oh, sheesh. Like, can't they just, I didn't know what else to do. Like, and so they escorted him out and I just took a breath.
It's kind of interesting that there was nobody around, but yet they still showed up so quick.
Well, they know everything. Like security, I mean, it wasn't until I made the call that they could see what was going on and so forth and so on. But security knows everything. In fact, security guards, so every time a cute security guard would start on Temple Square, we would all make bets of how long he would last. So there was one security guard, he was so adorable. And we were just like, he won't last a day, because as soon as they flirt with the sisters, they get shipped off to Welfare Square for a while. And then they come back, and then if they flirt with the sisters again, they go back off to some place in the middle of nowhere. And yeah, he didn't last a day. And,
That's funny.
yeah.
So, you one of the things that you had talked about before, obviously you served your mission, but it sounds like one of the things that helped you go through this whole process is being able to kind of fall back on your scriptural roots, right? I think you said you read the Book of Mormon like 13 times this last year.
So I read the Book of Mormon 11 times on my mission, and I read it different ways. I read it in 10 days. I read it in 3 days. I read it from like whatever the day was until my birthday in October. I read it and I just looked for references to Christ. I really, really enjoyed reading the Book of Mormon on my mission, but I really struggled with scripture study when I got home. I just couldn't organize my time right. And it was a huge struggle for me. And so when I got separated, I just felt unanchored. Like things that I knew to be true, I wasn't sure about anymore. And that was really hard for me because it was several things all at once. And I just prayed and I was like, Heavenly Father, I need something to hold on to, because I love the gospel. I know it's where you want me to be, but I'm unanchored. And I choose to doubt my doubts right now. And it was that Sunday, the gospel doctrine teacher talked about that he and his girlfriend, who he later married, they had done this challenge to read the Book of Mormon in a month. And I clearly felt the Spirit tell me, read the Book of Mormon every month. And I failed miserably at it at the beginning. I did not have an hour to read 20 pages a day, but I just kept failing forward and trying and trying and trying. And I finally found a pattern. And then there would be a shift. Like then I got a morning job and switching around that. So in the 12 months since I've been separated, and I kind of count that because I was emotionally divorced when we separated. He was just a person to me at that point.
And how long were you separated before the divorce was final?
So it was like the beginning of, so it was mid-January when we separated, and then it was April 27th that it was finalized. So we filed in February.
Okay.
So we separated in January, we filed in February, and then the court date was for April 27th, and then it was able to stick and stay that way. So
yeah, Joseph Smith said that the Book of Mormon was the most correct book of any book on earth, and that a man would get closer to God by abiding by its precepts than any other book on earth. So you're reading this 13 times over the last year. What type of things did you try and failed at? Like you said that you kept on failing forward. Whether, okay, I'm going to try to read 20 minutes in the morning, and then that didn't work. Okay, I'm going to read 20 minutes at night. That didn't work. I'm just going to blitz through it on the weekend. What type of things did you do?
So I would, so it had to be an hour a day. And so what happened is I just had to keep moving my schedule. There were things I had to stop doing, like checking my phone really quick when I wake up in the morning.
Going on Bumble.
Yeah, going on Bumble. I would try to, so I got up earlier. I got up earlier in the morning. And then if I couldn't finish, then I would try to keep it with me, or I'd finish it in the evening, or I would set a goal and I'm like, well, I'm not gonna do such and such until I've got my reading done. Because I mean, over 20 years, I just had completely gotten out of the habit of consistent scripture study. I just couldn't do it. There were so many things I had to do. But because I was separated, that gave me more time because there were things that I didn't have to take care of anymore. And
you didn't have to make it lunch in the morning?
Well, yes. So my ex needed 3 hours to get ready for the morning and 2 hours to get ready for the evening. And so I got my kids ready and off to school every day, and their lunches, and got them to bed every night, and just.
Your ex is a pansy. I need
What
4
was
hours.
he doing all that time?
Well, I finally timed it one day to understand why. And it took him 30 minutes to do everything. It took him 30 minutes in the morning. It took him 30 minutes to shower, 30 minutes to dress, 30 minutes to brush his teeth, 30 minutes to go to the bathroom, like 30 minutes to do calisthenics. Like, I don't know. It was just a thing.
I'm someone who takes a while in the morning sometimes, because I get up and I'm just like, I'm just going to go, especially if I've got my kids with me. I'll park it in the bathroom for a little while. Like, okay, this is my quiet time before the day starts. And then usually there's a little knock on the door, like, kink, kink, kink. I'm just like, I just need a little bit more time. So it's not that I'm necessarily doing anything, but I'm just having a little me time sometimes.
Yeah.
That's my time.
And coming underneath the door.
That's true, but sometimes like you need to like take care of responsibilities though.
So
Sometimes.
when we were first married, it would take him an hour to get ready for the day. And I was like, you know what? Like, he takes care of himself. That's great. And he's so lucky he's married to me, because when I'm in a hurry, I can shower and sing the ABCs twice and I'll be done. Like, so it was like a good complimentary thing that he needed that time and I didn't. And it just evolved.
Like a fungus, that time kept on growing.
I guess you could say that.
When my kids are gone, it probably takes me 45 minutes like to shower and get all ready for work. If my kids are home, it takes like an extra hour over that. And I'm doing the same things. And I'm like, I don't know where this time is going, but it's just taking forever. But if he's not doing anything with the kids, if he's just doing himself, shouldn't matter.
So funny story, funny, not funny, but it came up in marriage therapy because when everything changed and I was like, look, we work together. When you're off work, we're both on the clock together. But it came up in marriage therapy that the reason why he didn't help with the kitchen and stuff is because if he had any interruptions during his routines, he needed downtime. And so that's why he would like sit in the
Does
living
he have
room.
like OCD or something?
Yes.
Okay.
That's what
Well,
he was
that's
saying.
exactly
Anxiety.
what it is.
Huh?
Yes, the OCD thing. I mean, if he has to have downtime, if his process gets interrupted, then yeah, that kind of screams a mental illness of that.
So there were a couple things that happened. Number one is he had gotten a new job and he was traveling 3 weeks out of the month. And I just felt completely different the first week he was gone. And I was like, why do I feel so happy? And I was like, it's because I'm not 2 seconds from doing something wrong. And then I was like, wait, I don't do things wrong. I just don't do things the way other people want me to. And so it caused a little thing. I was like, something doesn't feel right. And then he had been meeting with a psychologist and I was invited to sit in on one of the meetings, which I thought was kind of odd. And he would tell me, he's like, oh, you should meet with a psychologist. They're so amazing. It'll be so good for you. And I was like, what is the psychologist doing for you? Because I don't see any difference. And he'd be so offended. I'm like, I'm sorry. I don't see the value of a psychologist when nothing's changing. Like, what are you supposed to be working on? So I was invited to sit in. He had been meeting with a psychologist for 5 months. And the psychologist went straight into his 3-hour morning routine and what he was doing to shorten it. And I was like, stop. What are you talking about? And he said, well, he's supposed to be, like compacting that time that he has. And I'm like, why? And he said, well, it's not normal. And I just remember sitting there and I just thought, something is very wrong. And I was asking all these questions and I just remember my ex was just sitting there saying nothing. And I just thought, why is he not freaking out? Like, this is, I don't know what to do about this information. Like, I just knew something was wrong. And so we went home and I stopped in front of the driveway and I said, I need to drop you off. I'll be back. And he's like, why are you leaving me? I said, I just need a minute. I need a minute. And he's like, well, no, let's just go in the house. And I said, and that for me was my first step toward who God created me to be, like a strong person that has true feelings that should be valid, be recognized and respected. Mm-hmm. And I was like, no, I'll be back. And I just drove off to a parking lot and my soul just broke apart. And I didn't know why. I just knew something wasn't right. And I'm a very passionate person, but I'm also a very patient person. And so I waited 4 or 5 more months before I finally asked him, when did you know about this diagnosis? And he said, from my very first visit. So for 5 months, he knew, and he was supposed to be doing something about it. And then I was brought into the conversation. And I started telling him, I was like, look, I think your psychologist has some really hard conversations he wants to have with you, and he can't because you won't let him. And everything just slowly unraveled more and more. And I told him, I said, look, you always made me believe that we were in this together and we were working together, but you've always had some reason why you couldn't. And then I had to do both. I've had to carry the load for both. And I said, marriage number 1 is over. This is marriage number 2. And you're going to do the things that you said you were doing. And he was like, well, that, I feel like that seems a little excessive and so forth and so on. And I'm like, do what you say you're gonna do. So there's something I like to call the laundry incident.
Okay. What was that?
So I started meeting with a psychologist so that I could support him, because I went to the other psychologist there, and I'm like, look, my husband is meeting with your partner and nothing's changing, and it is just pulling me apart, and I just need help to support him with his, with what he's working on. And she said, what are your shared responsibilities in the home? I said, well, he pays the bills. She's like, that's it? And I was like, and he helps sometimes? And she's like, no. She's like, they should be shared responsibilities. You guys created this and you should be working together on this. And so I tried talking to him, like, we really need to share more responsibilities. I said, I'm falling apart. We have 6 kids and like, it's just not working. And he's like, yeah, I'm really worried about you. And I'm like, then carry some of the load. So it was right before my next visit to the psychologist, because my challenge was that he take over a household responsibility. And I said, can you just put the clean clothes away? It's the one thing I never get to. We were staying at the couch. The clean clothes are on the couch. And he said, well, if I preside over the home, shouldn't I be the one to determine that? And it takes me a minute, because I just assume the best of everyone. It was later that I was like, any other woman would have punched you for stringing those words together. How can you have all those words in your head anyway? Like, that's awful. And so
that's basically what we learn in Elders Quorum. So I mean, that's the right response, isn't it?
So my situation is actually fairly similar, including like OCD, all of that. And at the time, first of all, like, you don't recognize that when you're in it. So the fact that you didn't say anything, like, you don't see that until you're on the other side, and then you're like, what the hell? Like, why did I put up with all of that? You don't see that when you're in the moment. That's an outside perspective. But at the time, like, I did all the things, inside, outside, the girl jobs, the boy jobs, all the things. He went to work. That's what he did. And it was exhausting, and it was depressing, and it was like soul crushing. But now that I'm outside of that, and now as a single parent, like, I see that as such a huge blessing, because it wasn't a big transition for me to have to go over to, now I do all the things, because I was already used to doing all the things. But honestly, now it's easier not having to deal with him.
My thing with that as well is that once I did get away from the relationship, my biggest thing was trying to go from our ward to my brother's ward, because I stayed with him for a couple months during that separation, and trying to stay active and going to church at a family ward that I didn't really know anybody, and I would bring my kids sometimes. That was just like, for me, it was atrocious. I didn't like it. I didn't like having to go through that. So how is it that you found yourself, like you said that you heard that one person say, we should read the scriptures in a month. Is that the only thing that you were doing to stay active? What other things did you do? What other tools did you find to help yourself stay rooted in the gospel?
Okay, so first, that moment when I left him at the house and I drove off to myself, it was the first time that I really heard the Spirit talk to me. And just you're going against the grain, do it. And I followed the Spirit every single day. And when I would pray and I'd be like, I have to know if I'm on the right track, I would have an experience, and I would be in the right place at the right time, talking to the person I was supposed to. and you know, when everything just comes together, and I would know that I was still on the right track. So in answer to your question, the end of the laundry basket, the end of the laundry incident was a huge step for me. So the first thing he said was, if I preside over the home, shouldn't I be the one to determine that? And I said, well, it shouldn't really matter. Like, it doesn't matter who presides. If somebody sees it needs to be done, they should just do it. And then an hour later, he said, well, how would I be able to spend time with the children if I was putting clean clothes away? And I was like, well, can you think of a way to do both? And he couldn't. So I was like, put the clean clothes away with them. And then an hour later, he said, I'm a broken man. I'm a slave to my routines. And I was like, maybe you should get on medication before we bring up this laundry thing again. So I felt impressed to tell this story to a friend of mine. And she said, Kathryn, you sound like a codependent. And I was like, what's a codependent? So I Googled it, and I was like, I am controlled by the emotions of others. Like, I'm a fixer, I'm a pleaser. And so all I could find was that you have to go through an addiction recovery program for it. And I joined the ARP program. I went in there the first week, and I just didn't want to be there. I wasn't comfortable. I was like, do you guys swear in this group? And the facilitator, she's like, I raise horses and I say bleep all day long. And I was like, okay, I belong, because I'm going to be saying that word a lot. Well, that was my first week. My second week, I was hobbling into class because my foot hurt, because I had missed a stair the day before, and I had fallen and I'd hit the floor, and yes, Nick, it's just that thing. That's what got me through 20 years. And it was Monday, I went and got it checked, and it was broken. So I'd kind of been walking on a broken foot for a couple of days. My broken foot made everything better, and it made everything worse. Because when my foot broke, the doctor told me, he's like, you can't put any weight on it for the first month. And I was like, I have 6 kids. I don't know how to do that.
Yeah, that's not possible.
I made a choice. I made a choice. I was not putting weight on it. I got a scooter. I put weight on it. I told him, I said, I'm not putting weight on this. I said, you have a standard for how you want the house to be, and you give me a hard time about it. You get to put the house to your standard that you try to hold me to. And he said, you know what? I'm okay. I said, okay with what? He's like, I'm okay with a messy house. And I'm like, really? Don't you ever speak about my housekeeping again. I said, I'm going to my ARP meeting. And when I come home, I want the house to be to your standards that you've held me to. And I called him after them, and I left. I actually, it was early. I went to my friend's house. I'm like, could you please feed me lunch? I had to leave my house early. So I called him after the meetings, and I'm like, is the house to your standards? And he's like, no. And I said, well, call me when it is. And he's like, are you going to get a hotel room? And I was like, yes. What human talks to somebody like that? My broken foot changed everything, because he was like, when is it going to be fixed? When is everything going to go back to the way it was? And I'm like, it's not. Good. It shouldn't. It is not. And so I went to a friend's house for dinner, because I was like, and I was driving I broke my right foot. So I was driving with my left foot, which I probably shouldn't have been. So, I mean, you couldn't even take me around places. And so the ARP program was a godsend to me. I also joined the family support group so I could support his addictions. And I was reading the Book of Mormon on top of that. And I started to break down a little bit. It was too much. And so I stopped going to the family support, because supporting something that was never going to change, because he just refused. He's like, I have weighed this against logic, and it is false. And I was like, well, did he tell you that you had anxiety? He's like, yes, but he told me to do nothing about it. And I was like, that doesn't make sense to me. Like, who you are intensifies as you age. And I could be wrong.
So let me jump in here for a second. I'm gonna do a complete train shift. We're gonna jump tracks. So you left your ex. You got divorced, finalized by April. You jumped into dating, Bumble. You jumped into the Facebook groups. You started reaching out to different people. You got yourself a little dating coach, which is very cool, by the way. You got involved with a little podcast group here. What has been your biggest challenge in maintaining your drive for maintaining the spirit in your home during this entire process?
My daughter.
Older, younger?
13.
Oh, yeah.
So
So are the boys coming to the yard? Little milkshake action.
that would be easier. So actually, I wanted to put off the divorce for 5 years until she graduated from high school, because if I knew that if she wasn't okay with it, she was just going to make it awful for everyone and just try to keep us together or whatever. Like she's very unpredictable. And so when I finally did, I just had to. It was the next step. You know, he didn't take care of it while we were together. So it was up to us to take care of our things while we were separated, and that didn't change. So now we were going to take care of our own things as completely separate people. It was just the chain of events that happened. So she actually became my greatest ally. She is a lot less anxious than she used to be. Her dad kind of said some things that you should never tell a daughter with body, at that body image stage. And she, every maybe like 6 months, she'll bring that up and she'll cry a lot. So she hurts, and hurt people hurt. So she, just when she's just not happy, it just comes out everywhere, and it just makes the house feel so awful. And it's so hard for me to like feel the spirit and follow the spirit. And then when it's like, we just need to break this up. We just need to go to separate places. And then she just kind of follows. And so the hardest thing, I think, is just the healing that she has to do in general. Like, she already has struggles, and then she doesn't want to do therapy because her dad told her he used to cry in the beginning when he went. And I was like, honey, that was the psychologist, not the marriage therapist. I'm like, there's a really awesome Mexican place, so we'll just go to the therapist, and then I'll take you to the Mexican place. And okay. I'm like, yeah, so that is like the next step. Now that the dust has settled and I see what needs to happen, and she's coming on board with it. It really helped her getting braces. It was a big boost for her. She's studied braces for like the last 7 years, planning to get braces. And so having something that she's in charge of really helps her a lot.
So is she like the oldest, the youngest, the only girl? Like, why her as opposed to like your other 5 kids?
She's my oldest daughter.
Like them?
She's my oldest daughter. She has a very fiery personality. So, like I'll help her with her math or whatever. And she's like, you know what? You're not as bad of a teacher as I thought you were. And I'm like, thank you.
You also, according to your Facebook and conversations, you got involved in hunting as well. Tell us a little bit about that.
So a few years ago, I had an experience when I remembered the happiest time I was in my life. And I was 10 years old, and I was in Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. And I had a best friend, and my grandmother lived an hour away, and I had a Siberian Husky. And my soul was interconnected with all 3 of them. And I was always outside with my best friend. Like, I was very much into nature, and he was very much into like animals. And all of that changed when my dad got stationed over in Germany before us, and my mom kind of got tapped out, and I kind of like took over the parenting. And when I was able to come back to that memory, that realization, I knew I couldn't have those things again, but I knew I could have that feeling again. So I knew I had to get outside. So my ex, it came up in therapy that in order to make us compatible, he basically kind of like took all the things away from me that I love doing. So when we met, I was a firefighter and a rafting guide. Well, had been friends for 2 years while we were missionaries, but when we met, I was a firefighter and rafting guide. And he slowly like kind of did like the little water torture thing until I believed it was wrong to love those things. Like, you know, he would say like, do you really as a future mother want to be like out fighting fires in the middle of the night? And I was like, I think you've watched too many firefighter movies. Like, it's really not like that. And so I came back full force to myself, and I have no regrets. I always had, like, Heavenly Father blessed me throughout the whole time and always gave me things. But when I knew I needed to get outside, but I didn't know what to do. And I wanted to help my 4-year-old, or he was 4 at the time. I wanted to help him learn to just chill the heck down, because he would just get so worked up about things. So I thought I would teach him how to fish. Well, I didn't know how to fish. So we tried fishing from March until May, and it was awful. And we messed up, but we would find people and we would say, we have no idea what we're doing. And they would show us things and give us lures and so forth and so on. And we started catching fish, and that little boy changed completely. I mean, so confident. If he could outfish me, I mean, everybody at church knew on Sunday that he had outfished his mom. I caught my first fish, my first bass, the night before I chaperoned girls camp. And girls camp was at a cabin that had a stunted pond. So a stunted pond is where there's tons and tons of fish, but they can't grow very big because there's too many and they're competing for food. So the people around there, they need to fish out the smaller ones to make more room for the regular ones to grow bigger. I was able to teach every single girl that wanted there to catch a bass. Like, that's kind of how I teach. As soon as I know how to do it, I can turn around and teach it. And one morning I was out with the priesthood catching the smaller ones because we throw them down the storm drain. And I saw a bass go for my lure that was like at the top of the water. Like, I didn't know bass like open twice when they go for a lure. There's like a second set of jaws that they have. And I was absolutely addicted to fishing after that. Like, something just came into my soul and I just became an avid fisher. And I was so fortunate to meet a guy who was 20 years my senior and loves to fish and hunt as well. And he became my fishing and hunting mentor and was able to give me and my kids like these amazing experiences fishing and hunting. And my ex was, you know, we were married at the time, and he was like, I don't know if this is appropriate, and there's time that, you know, you should be spending this time at home with the kids, and this isn't going to get done while you're gone. And I was like, come with us. But he had learned that if he didn't do it.
Are you doing a lot of fishing now with your kids?
In January, no.
What about last year?
Yes. During the summer. Huh?
You don't do ice fishing?
Not in Kansas. You
Ice
fall
fishing.
right through it. It's like a little sheet. Pieces of
It's not thick enough? I don't know how cold it gets in Kansas.
No, it gets cold, but not cold enough. So during the summer, we go almost every night.
Hang out with the spiders, go fishing.
Grab a spider, go on the hook.
Yeah. So,
Yeah,
you know,
an
one
idea.
thing when you're kind of talking about this, it makes me kind of curious about the whole situation. When you're going through, you've got a divorce, you've got like these kids and all this responsibility, kind of feels like everything's put on your shoulder. Where is your ward in all of this? Are they there? Are they helping you out? Do you have like strong leaders that are like, okay, Kathryn, what do we need to do to help? Especially with the kids, I would think. Young men's, young women's, they're going to jump in, maybe help out. How has that been?
You mean like when I asked my ministering brother to help with leaves because we were exhausted and he said that's what kids are for?
That one.
Yeah. So is that I mean, that's one ministering brother, but is that indicative of your entire ward? Are they kind of all that way?
My Relief Society president was incredible, and she knew what to have me research as things progressed. And she also worked with Head Start, and she got my kids, helped me get my kids, my 2 youngest ones, into preschool through the school, paid, so that I could substitute teach, because I wasn't, that was before COVID hit. So I had just enough support. In fact, it was my bishop that created the separation for us.
How so?
So, so the week that we separated was also the week that my son left on his mission. And so I had already taken one of my wedding rings off like months before, because when I realized that he didn't take me seriously, I just needed to show more cause and effect. And it felt good to take one of the rings off, because the wedding rings were really one of the first signs that we should have broken up for at least for a while. And it just represented just control and whatever. So my oldest, he was like, whatever you guys do, I want to know before I leave. So he got set apart as a missionary, and I told his dad, I was like, okay, so, we're doing this and we need to go tell him. And so he said, I have something to tell you, you're not going to like it. And I was like, please, Lord, let it be porn or an affair, because those...
I never heard of anybody praying for those things, but okay.
Because
Nope.
those are, it would have made so much sense, because he treated me in a two-dimensional way. I had a form and a function, but he never recognized that I had a personality and feelings. And it just would have clicked. And he said, I have had a revelation reading the church handbook that divorce is not an option. And so I'm not going to divorce you. So we can't get divorced. I'm like, why can't we get divorced? He's like, because both people have to agree to it. I'm like, actually, I'm going to have you served tomorrow. He's like, you can't do that. I don't agree. And I'm like, you don't have to. It only takes one to file. He's like, and it was because I knew what to watch for, because I knew what things were called, and because I was out of the cognitive dissonance. In cognitive dissonance, they say something nice and they say something mean all the time, and you're like, well, which one is true? And when I understood none of them were true, it just cleared my head and I could just see what was going on. And I just could see him for a moment like snap out of it. And he's like, no, absolutely not. Divorce isn't happening. And I'm like, he said, and also when you're having marriage problems, you're supposed to meet with a bishop. And I'm like, he's like, that was in the ensign. I'm like, or the conference issue. I'm like, which conference issue? Because they've changed the protocol. Like, you're supposed to go to your elders quorum or release a city president first, and then they'll refer you to the bishop. Like, you don't go straight to the bishop for that kind of stuff anymore. I said, I'm going for a drive, and if you can set up a meeting with the bishop tonight, I'll go. Otherwise, I'm serving you in the morning.
So, I'm sorry. My mind's kind of going on a couple different avenues that we have here. Why did you only go with Bumble?
Oh, I did 6 of them.
Is that the only one that you've ever gone on?
No, I've done 6.
Okay.
Which one?
Nick, let's get back to Bumble a little bit later. Let's stick to the topic that we were talking about. I have no freaking idea why you're talking about Bumble right now. So set that aside.
Okay.
Going on, so you go to your bishop.
We're in the bishop's office. And so my ex was like, this is what's going on. And Bishop listened to both of us. And I had told my ex probably a month before, I was like, don't ever touch me again. And so my ex was like, we're never, she never wants to be physical again. I'm totally okay with that. And Bishop's like, that's not a marriage. And so he asked the bishop, he said, can we show her in the church handbook where it says that divorce is not an option? And in that moment, I realized why he wanted to meet with the bishop. And I knew that there are bishops that exist that would have shown the woman where it says in the church handbook that divorce is not an option. And I realized I was being, what's it called? bullied, not bullied, but like strong-armed. Like he was counting on the bishop to tell me not to get divorced. It was a setup. And the bishop said, I can't receive personal revelation for someone else's interpretation of the church handbook. And my ex tried over and over and over to get Bishop to set me straight. And he's like, I can't answer for that for you. I'm not a professional. I don't have training in that. And he turned to me and he said, Kathryn, I am required to ask you, do you not, because I said, I don't feel safe anymore. And the bishop said, I'm required to ask you, do you not feel safe in a way that requires something immediate? And I said, no, but I'm afraid he's going to find something in the church handbook that says he can just do whatever he wants. And Bishop said, asked him, he said, can you go somewhere tonight? And my ex was just like, wait, what? And so Bishop had to baby step him through the thought process of getting a hotel for the rest of the week until we met with the marriage therapist at the end of the week. And I emailed the bishop later and I said, thank you. I said, there are bishops that would have just handled that differently. And I'm so grateful you didn't. And he emailed me back and he said, you are an amazing daughter of God who knows how to act on true feelings. And that, I mean, he said other things, but there was something about him telling me that I was acting on true feelings. I don't think I'd ever even, it had never occurred to me. I was just fighting and fighting and fighting, like, this is wrong, this is wrong. And you know, my ex would be like, you're crazy, you need medication. And I'd be like, well, aren't you supposed to be taking something? He'd be like, no, my psychologist says not to take anything. It was just the words true feelings. I held on to that email. I read that email almost every day as I pushed through and did what you're not supposed to. I went against the grain. I did what, you know, people choose to be unhappy for the rest of their lives, to just keep the image or not deal with, you know, what comes with it. And I was so blessed. That was for me a huge, what was it, Nick? Like, to help me stay anchored, was a bishop who knew, like, where his calling, like where his boundaries were. Yes.
So now, did you rely on him? Is he somebody that you could kind of continue to turn through during this process?
No, I went through the Relief Society president. I relied on the Relief Society president greatly because she worked with the Head Start program. She was very knowledgeable in abuse, domestic violence, you know, like the struggles that children go through. And so basically I was like, I'm going to come to you, and then you coordinate if there's something else that has to do. And my bishop didn't even know anything, because we're pretty quiet. I'm just not a confrontational person. We're just pretty quiet. The bishop knew something was coming down the pipes, possibly because when I did the ARP program, step 4 is to confess to your bishop. So I confessed to my bishop that I was a codependent, which seemed really weird, but it was the step. And I did everything I was supposed to. And when I completed the program, I just turned to the facilitator. I was like, what exactly am I addicted to? Because I'm not comparing myself technically, but all these other women that have all these other addictions, they haven't come to all the meetings and they haven't done all the work and they haven't done the personal inventory and so forth. And she said, Kathryn, you're a fixer. And I was like, oh, I can take care of that. I just won't fix anything.
And then you pulled out your diagrams and you said, you're right, I am. Here they are.
I'm a
all
fixer.
I
Let me
do-
fix that.
So
Yeah.
I fix me and I stay in my hula hoop. And there are people that could benefit from really great creative problem solving ideas that I have. And you know what? If they ask me, I'll tell them. They don't ask me, so I don't tell them.
What was the
What
name
is
of the program that you took?
The family support group. In fact, I'm currently in the family support group because I really love the ladies there, and I'm not really supporting anything since I'm divorced now, but there are still things that, little things that help me. And the facilitator was such a godsend to me and my kids. She has a pond, she has horses. She
And
has
that's through the church. That program is through the
yes,
church.
yes.
Okay.
She has a saltwater pool. And so I can tell her, like, my kids are struggling, and she's like, okay, let's do this. So she helps minister to my kids when, they're not getting along, or they just need like something active to do to just keep, doing things.
She lives locally then.
Yeah.
That's
So,
great.
I mean, you live in, how big is the area that you live in? I mean, how big is your ward? I mean, is it geographically a big area, or do you live in town where it's a smaller area?
I'd say it's probably like 10 miles each way.
Okay, so.
The stake. No, the stake is more than that, because it's like the little country towns too. I don't know. If you were to Google like Olathe, Paola, Iola, it's like just that whole area. So most of it's Olathe, which is about 10 miles each way. And then there's the little country towns, Chanute, Paola,
It's
Iola.
just good. It's nice to see that you have somebody locally that you can depend on like that.
I have a tribe. And like I said, I followed the spirit. When there was something that I was stuck on, I would just let it sit until someone came to my mind, and I would reach out to them. And sometimes it was someone I never even expected, but I always did. And it was always the next thing I needed to do the next right thing, and just keep doing the next right thing. I still have.
Let me ask you a question. So, one of the things that you said is once you kind of figure something out and you get good at it, what you like to do is turn around and teach other people.
Yeah.
Okay. So you've now gone through a divorce. You've been a part of the church. Teach someone else that's going through a divorce what they need to do to stay close to the gospel in this. What would you do? What would you say to them?
Now
Well,
you're the dating coach.
Right.
First,
Your diagram. What's step one?
so I have had people reach out to me that are struggling and so forth. And I always ask them, I'm like, who are you? Who are you at your core? Huh?
You should know what their name is. Absolutely.
So I ask them, I'm like, what do you love? What do you love doing? What is your personality? And they're like, I don't know. Like, I've just been doing the mom and marriage thing. And I'm like, you need to figure out who you are. And I always tell them, I'm like, you really have to find out what you love. You have to have a strong sense of who you are before you can do anything else, because otherwise you're trying to win. You're trying to prove you were right. You're looking for validation that you're doing the right thing, but it has to come from within. And so I just tell them, I'm like, the number one thing I tell them is you have to go to Heavenly Father about it. Because that's what I did. And yeah, like there's no one way. There's a million divorces, and there's a million different ways to do it. Like, so I don't, so what happens is I'll tell someone, come back to me. Come back and tell me when you figure out like who exactly you are and what brings you joy, your inner self. And usually they don't, because they don't want to work on it. They just want it like,
when you're in this moment though, and you've gone through this horrific divorce, whatever the case might be, some people, I guess, is probably like, yeah, we just stripped it apart and we were both happy with it, whatever. I would say probably the majority of people have gone through a pretty tough breakup. There tends to be a propensity at that time to really feel lost. I don't know who I am. I don't know what I want. I don't know who I'm looking for. I mean, you express some of that yourself, right? Like, I don't even know what my type is. And how do you recalibrate somebody who just feels lost? You know, I think going to them and saying like, you need to find out who you are, that's great. You're probably right. But how? How do you do that? Because that is a struggle for a lot of people. And this is where truly, you know, you had talked about, I don't know what my type is. I think this is where people really fail and probably go into this divorce marriage cycle over and over again. Because you're really looking for, there's two things. Are you looking for somebody that you want or somebody that you need? Now you can marry those two, right, together. So you find somebody that you both want and need, which is fantastic. But I feel like people look for somebody and they're like, well, I want that person, whether it's a guy or a girl. Okay, fantastic. That's great. But do you need them in your life? Are they going to be good for you? Well, I don't really know. And I think where people struggle is they don't take time to find out not only who they are, and that's a process. How do you do that? But what do I need? What do you need in a relationship? So if I'm asking you, Kathryn, okay, who are you? You can say, you know what? I've made some great inroads this last year. I've like really learned some things, but what do you need? What is it that Heavenly Father would like give to you to fill that spot in your soul that makes you that person to like be in a happy marriage and move forward throughout eternity with that person? What do you really need?
Can you restate that into like, can you make that like one sentence?
What do you need? Question mark. No. Okay. So, you
Like a
know, there's
notebook.
what you want, right? You might find some guy that you're like, I really want a guy that's outgoing and that's just amazing and he's like really great. But what is your heart telling you that you need? What's empty inside of you? Or what is like your heart yearning for that would be like, that would make me feel complete?
Okay, me. Okay.
You. Well, I mean, I was asking it to Nick because, you know, there's kind of this little romance thing going on, but go ahead and answer too.
Well, first you were saying like when women come to me and they're struggling, and then you're talking about me, so I wasn't sure. Okay, so what I want is a guy that would say, like, we were talking about such and such, and I know you have more questions, so write them down and I'm gonna cook you dinner. And I'd be like, okay. No, so for me personally, you know, when I had left my ex at the driveway and I had gone off to myself, I found out later that it's called betrayal trauma. And once I understood it, I said, you have to let me tell you how awful you've been. You just have to let me get my words out. I'll get through it quicker. Otherwise, it's going to take forever. And he would say, you're wrong. And I had to get through it on my own. And I would just drop my kids off at school and I'd be in the garage all by myself. And I would just cry and I would just beg God, like, who can help me? I need someone to help me. I have this huge hole in my soul that everything I thought to be true was not. And where are you? And I would just beg and cry and work through it on my own until I started to realize that God had created me to take care of it. He had created me to be strong enough to stand my ground and fight my battle. It's like I realized I had been born with a sword, and he was like, let me show you how to use it. So I've worked really hard to fill that void with myself. In the process, I have met the most amazing person who is a go-getter and fun and inappropriate at the perfect time. And it's me. I found me. I filled my void with me. Now, what I'm looking for is a guy that I can be comfortable enough to be myself. So when I meet a guy, I am more of myself and myself until I am no longer able to be myself and we part ways. And so, you know, I haven't really met a guy, I mean, there was one guy I dated and my heart just sang and I was like, wow, I didn't know a heart could sing when you are with the guy that you really like. That's different.
A little Twitter-pated.
It was, yes, it's like la. But so I learned in the process about myself, and what I'm looking for is a guy that I feel like twirling and I'm comfortable enough to twirl. A guy that I want to tell the stories of my scars and let him see my scars. Like, I was hit by a car when I was 16. I've run into a barbed wire fence. I got in a fight with a trash can and I have a candy cane scar on my nose. Like,
Who hasn't done that a time or six?
yes.
You know, I fight trash cans usually on Thursdays, sometimes Saturdays. Just depends. Kids schedule.
Exactly. Liquid stitches. They're the best.
So, you know, these are great things. And you're talking about like what you want, right? But have you had that quiet moment where you're sitting there and you're like completely vulnerable with Heavenly Father and you're like, what does my soul need? You know, what is missing? So let me give you an example, because I think sometimes this one's a hard one to differentiate. So for me, right, I've been married more than once and I always jump in and I'm like, she's gorgeous. Like, she's got all these things that I really like and it's fantastic. But does she meet my needs? And I think not until after this last time did I really stop and say, you know what? I overlooked a lot of things because these were things that I wanted and they were all great and they had good qualities, but it wasn't what I needed. It wasn't what my soul needed. And it was almost like Heavenly Father in that moment when you're just crushed and there's like nothing left of you, right? Where he's like, okay, let me show you what you need. And let me show you what's been missing here. Because you can jump into a situation where somebody's like totally shallow, right? But you're like, oh, they're fantastic. On the surface, they meet all these things. They make me dinner and that, like, they have great conversation and it's fun and they're beautiful and we're going to live happily ever after. But there was some qualitative things in there that was missing, that my soul was like, I need this. And I didn't even realize it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I didn't even know. Like, for example, you know, they talk about the love languages. And well, these are my love languages or something like that. Yeah, okay, that's great. But it goes deeper than that. It's like there are things that maybe you've been traumatized by over the course of your marriage of 20 years that you're like, I really need someone to like just heal this part of my soul. Somebody who fits me and is going to be not just that partner there to go fishing with and all that. That's great. But unless they are actually there in that moment, connecting with you soul to soul and like filling that portion, there's always going to be something missing. So it's not just what you want, but it's what you need. And if you can find someone who meets both of those characteristics, home run.
So dating is really hard for me because I need someone that can keep up with me, like outdoors. I hike, I kayak. I need someone that can keep up with me. So the guys that are too young for me are physically active enough to keep up with me, but then the guys that are my age are not as active.
Look old.
And they look old, and that is, I just can't. Like,
I
don't date someone younger.
What?
Well, I don't know.
Open to dating younger.
The country boy I dated was 37, and then the B-2 bomber pilot I dated was like 48. So that was like the lowest and the highest I went. But so I need someone
like 48's like way out of the range. Like that's just a few years older than you.
He looked young too. It's like, but I'm just saying the youngest and the oldest I've dated. So I just need someone that's aged well, because, and I don't know if I need therapy or I'm shallow.
Do you have an issue with that? Are you finding that a lot with guys that in your age bracket, which I'm going to say is probably anywhere from 40 to 50, do they just look older? Majority of them do?
Yeah, I didn't pay attention over the last 20 years. Like,
Dude, I don't know what it is,
I
but
was,
anytime I get on Facebook, I look for anybody that's in my age bracket and they look like they are in their 60s. I mean, just like wrinkles all galore, just nobody's taking care of themselves. And they baked too much when they were in their 20s, and now it's just like leather skin. So yeah, I get where you're
So-
going. So you're looking for a 26-year-old then, right?
Oh, I have one of those. He's a
so,
nice guy.
good grief, Nick, you really,
Hey, 26, they can keep up with you and the skin looks great. I don't know
No.
what you're.
I need someone around my age just because I want someone that knows where they were when the Berlin Wall fell. Like,
I have no idea. Was I alive?
I don't know where I was when the Berlin Wall fell.
well, okay.
What year was that? Was I even born yet?
Maybe it was 88, 89.
Okay.
So I need
I was a baby.
I need like so it's very intellectual for me, but okay, so my ex used to joke that in a few years I would be his trophy wife. And I just think that is so awful and degrading. And I was like, do not ever say that out loud around anyone. Like, I don't know why that bothers me, but I just see
It's a compliment.
it's not a compliment to me.
You're hot.
Mm-mm.
In a
No,
few
but women
years-
want to be valued
hot
for
wife.
more than how they look, though.
Yeah, just trophy wife. Just, I mean, no offense to anybody that is.
I'm more than just a body for you to
If
sit
is
on
a
your
trophy
hands.
wife, I don't think they're on here.
I
I
am
think
more
the
than
better way to put it will be that you're going to still be beautiful as you're older, and I will be happy and still in love with you then. Instead of like, yeah, all my friends are going to be jealous. I can take you to the gym and be like, guess who she's going home with tonight? Yeah, not quite the same.
I don't feel an attraction to someone that looks like they could be my dad.
Amen.
Yep. I don't see anything wrong with that. Some girls do like that though. I mean, there are girls that just for whatever
Want a
reason
daddy?
they like older men. But
Okay, so what I want,
Need?
like what I need in my soul to complete me, I just need a guy who is about my age and is fit, like
And looks about your age.
and looks close enough, like not completely grayed out, please. I just can't do it. It's I don't know what it is. It's just who I am, whatever. I just need a guy that can outfish me and can just sit at the pond and just talk. Like, that is what is missing in me, is that companionship and that connection. Like, I will probably always be at the water's edge. I have my fish in the summer and spring and my fish in the winter. And once I knew that that is just who I am and where I find myself, I always went fishing when I would get stood up on a date, or I would get catfished or hatfished or propositioned or proposed to. I always went
catfished.
Yeah. And there's something about the water for me and fishing. It just helps me like take my broken pieces and put it back together. And it was just such a lifeline when everything was going horrible. And when I broke my foot, I thought my life was over because I couldn't fish anymore. And my fishing mentor said, Kathryn, get your kids and come fishing. And I'm like, I can't go fishing.
why can't you go fishing? Do you wade out there when you go fishing or something?
Well, it's a bank and I was on a scooter and I can't like
You
fish
don't
on
have
a
a dock you can fish off of or something?
Huh?
There's not a dock you can fish off of or something?
Not the place I knew of. So he had me come to a new place. He had me go to a spillway that was all concrete. And it was kind of hard getting over the gravel, but he had also brought a bucket for me with a swivel lid. And so I was able, yes, Rachel, I will teach you, and you can stay at my place too. I was able to fish, and it was, I mean, I'm just so grateful for Gary. He is such a huge blessing to me and my kids, teach my boys how to shoot a shotgun. It's as if everything I couldn't give my kids to help them experience life has come through other ways. And so when Gary taught me that I could fish with a broken foot, I was able to just take that and then figure out how to fish at a bank. So I was allowed to walk to the bathroom at night with my boot on. And so instead, I would scooter. And then if I caught a fish, I would walk to the bank to pull it up and out, because it was trout fishing. So it was totally different. Like, you just wait until they hook themselves and then you reel them in and you grab the net and pull them out. And I don't know if I would have made it without fishing. There's just, I still don't completely understand why it's so interconnected with my soul, but that is the whole. And when I pray and talk to Heavenly Father, I just see myself at a lake fishing in the quiet, just watching the sunset. But other than that, I know that I have other holes, and I fill them with myself. Like, my new thing is eating out by myself, which is so hard. It's so hard to eat out by myself. I sit at the bar. A friend of mine who's been single longer than me, he's like, it totally counts. And I'm like, good, because I would die if someone was like, why can't we have that table that she's hogging by herself?
You know what? Just feel lucky that you can eat out. All the restaurants and everything here are closed, so
That's true.
I can't even eat out. I would
I
go.
still remember
I don't even freaking care if I was sitting there in my pajamas.
the first time that I talked myself into going to a movie by myself. Like, I had eaten out by myself. It was fine. But I was like, I'm going to go to a movie all by myself. Like, I don't need anyone. So I go to the movie and I was like that's not something you do alone. Like, you go to movies with people. And I went in, it was like a chick flick rom-com. I was literally the only person in the theater. There was no other person in there. And I was like,
oh my God.
Well, I guess I'm going to be embarrassed about being here alone because I'm here alone.
So
and it honestly was so fun.
I have this thing about facing my fears, because what I'm afraid of, everyone else isn't afraid of. And it all started with a tarantula, actually.
Probably am. I'm afraid of everything.
It started with a tarantula a couple years ago. I was substitute teaching middle school science in Kansas. So I have an elementary education degree. And so
me too.
Were you elementary or early childhood?
Elementary.
Okay, yeah, elementary. Okay. So yeah, so I'm a substitute.
Talk to the early childhood people here. Losers.
Well, I started in secondary and then I had to student teach in a 9th grade class. They are a-holes. And I was like,
I love subbing high school. I'm not a high school teacher.
No, me either.
So I was substitute teaching middle school science, and they had all these animals in it, and they had a tarantula, and a couple of girls were playing with the tarantula, and I am deathly afraid of spiders. And I just thought to myself, like, why are they not afraid? And so I asked them questions, and I was like, what would be the worst thing that would happen if I held that spider? And they were like, well, it'd probably run up your arm onto your head. And so what ended up happening was we made a plan that I would hold the spider, and if it ran up, I would just freeze,
pass,
and they would remove it. So I'm deathly afraid of spiders. It's like I would hold a snake before that. So the first time I held it, it started crawling up my arm, and it started moving to the side, and I screamed. And they had to take the spider off of me. So you have to move your arm with the spider when it's walking on your arm. So they took it off of me, and the spider was scared. It was shaking. And I was like, I scared the spider. I felt kind of bad. So we waited half an hour, and then they put it in the crook of my arm. I had a sleeve on. I'm not crazy. I'm not going to have a spider on my bare skin. But they put it in the crook of my arm, and it scrunched down, and it took a nap. Goliath took a nap in the crook of my arm. And so I just kind of stood there for a while. And
you
then
rock it and start singing to it and pet it a little bit, stroke
I'm
it.
terrified of spiders. Something changed in me. And I realized that when I go through hard things on purpose, it changes something in me and makes me feel stronger. And it was a couple months later, I was trying to talk to my ex about something. And he was like, you really think you're going to get me to answer that question? And I said, if I can hold a spider in the crook of my arm, I can expect an answer from you. And I waited, and he answered my question. And there's just a power that comes from choosing to do scary things like a podcast, holding a tarantula. What else have I done? Just I've held a bearded dragon and a boa constrictor, and I'm still here because not everyone is afraid. And when I was talking to another person who was a lifeline to me during the time was a psychologist friend in the stake, and I said, you know, I described what was going on in my marriage, and I'm like, what is this, and what would it require? And he said, anxiety is cured with exposure therapy. So when you continually bring that thing into your existence, it eventually normalizes and you realize that it's not something to be anxious about. And that's what I was inadvertently doing with fear. And so when my ex was trying to use doubt and fear to stop the process, he couldn't, because I had changed the ARP programs, the program, the people that I was talking to, and so forth and so on. Like, I just wasn't that girl anymore. And he thought that I would stop fishing and hunting if he never participated in it, if he told me it was an inappropriate record thing for women to do. He was like, and you know, he would try to quote the gospel to me, and I was like, I know the gospel too, and that's just your interpretation. So the things that I overlooked in the beginning of our marriage became the major stumbling blocks in the end. We met in the MTC, and I took one look at him and I was like, what a judgmental prick. And he took one look at me and he was like, psycho, missionary machine over there. And he never understood how we as sisters could get revelation. Our district, we were asked to pick out a hymn to do for our district meeting. And as sisters, we had come up with Army of Helaman, and we just felt the spirit so strong about it. So we told the elders, we want to do Army of Helaman for the hymn. And elder, so my ex was the district leader's companion. So my ex said, well, that is actually a song and not a hymn, so we need to get it approved. And I said, well, we got the revelation, so you elders can get the confirmation. And I told the sisters, I'm like, that is not how it's supposed to be done. Like, we just give them what we're gonna sing. And it just created like this battle where, you know,
you're talking about the fact that he when you first met him, he was like, well, you know, that's not your thing, so we're gonna have to ask permission, and I don't really believe that you got, you know, direction for this. And then here you are 20 years later, and he's like, well, if I'm the patriarch of the house, then shouldn't I really decide how things are gonna go? It sounds like he really didn't really get it when it comes down to that. And I've heard this before, where guys are just kind of running off the cuff with, you know, hey, I'm gonna do my own thing because I have the priesthood and she's just gotta follow me. So that's
he didn't really
change his perspective, and he didn't really grow. It doesn't seem.
I knew he didn't. I knew he had a low opinion of women, but I thought I was the exception, and I didn't understand.
Case, huh?
Them's the berries, Nick. I didn't understand that people could mimic normal people. Like, I thought you were just kind of who you were, and boy, he mimicked for a really long time. Like, I never knew there was a whirlwind of irrationality just constantly going on in his head. He just never trusted me enough to share it. And you know, no good marriage ends in divorce.
No, I hope that he finds something to help him out with that.
You know, it's kind of an interesting thing that we run into quite a bit here, because, you know, men misunderstanding women, and in large respect, women misunderstanding men as well. I think one of the biggest conflicts that we run into is unmet expectations, just the opposite sex and not knowing them. So having said that, we are kind of running a little bit short on time here, but I do have a little game that I put together. I want to play with you and bring the audience in on as well. And Nick and Whitney get to participate too. So it's kind of all of us together. Sort of a battle of the sexes game here. And see how much you actually know about the other sex. So here's how this is going to go. I've got a series of questions, and I'm going to say, okay, who is this? Is this for men or for women? Does it more apply to men or women? And I will go through and read all of the questions, and then everybody can keep score on their own, write them down. Then afterwards, I will reveal the answers, whether it was men or women. Now, we'll throw in some easy ones there, some softballs, but some of them you may be surprised at the answers to. Does that sound fair?
Yes.
Kind of makes sense? All right.
So like an example of that is going to be like, I can write my initials in the snow. And it'll be like,
And
Right. So here's what we're going to do. Yeah, good question, Heidi. Instead of answering via chat, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to read the questions and just on your own, write them down. So I'll read question 1, for example, and say, does this apply to men or women? And you write it down. Don't say anything. We're not going to answer it there. We're going to I'll read through all the questions, and then you write through. And then I will go through and give the answers after we're done. We'll see who's got the highest score, who scores the best, who really understands the differences in the sexes the best. Sound fair?
come on, girls, we got this.
Ready?
how many questions?
All right. Well,
Yeah.
the question really is, how many of these do we want to do? So I've got more than enough. Why don't we just do 20? We'll
20
do 20.
sounds good.
All right. So is everybody ready?
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 Nick, how about you?
I'm writing down the numbers.
You can number them as you go.
Are you crazy?
Okay, we're just going to start. Nick can
All right,
add
I'm
it.
ready.
Okay.
I'm ready.
All right. So this is the battle of the sexes. Let's see who understands the opposite sex or their own sex. I mean, in some cases, it might be your own gender. Who understands better? Okay. And like I said, I've thrown in some easy ones here, but some of them may surprise you. Okay. First question. Who checks themselves out in the mirror more often during the day on average, men or women?
Whoa. Hey guys, we're not putting them in the chats. Don't be trying to cheat here, people.
Yeah, write them down. Don't put them in the chat. These aren't answering them in the chat. Just write them down on your own. And
Joshua,
score. We'll add them up at the end.
that's number 1 for you, Joshua. Happens again, you're out.
Okay. Number 2. Who initiates divorces and breakups more, men or women?
That kind of depends on what you consider initiating, but
Is this going to be a high percentage? Like,
I'll read you the answers afterwards.
okay.
Yeah, and the explanations that go with them. So
Okay.
So just put down what you think right now if you had to guess. Okay, number 3. Who is more likely to be addicted to their smartphone, men or women? Number 4. Who gossips more, men or women?
Easy.
Number 5. Who is better able to judge a person's size just by the sound of their voice, men or women? So if you've
Height?
never met somebody
Okay.
before and you hear them on the phone, who is better able to determine, are they a large person, a small person, just by hearing their voice?
I never knew that was a thing. But judging by the number of people that tell me, oh, you're taller than I expected, I don't think it's men.
I'm looking forward to that answer.
Okay. Who is more visually able to track objects, men or women, and who is better at visually identifying objects, including colors? So one is able to follow the objects, like when we're first in
So
development.
like tracking.
The other is, follow where they go. The other one is better at identifying the object
and the color.
Is
So
this
is this 6 and 7 or 6A and
This-
B?
Let's do 6A and B.
Okay.
Sorry, I should have clarified that. 6A and B. That's a two-part question. Okay, number 7. Who has better ability at three-dimensional thinking, including object spatial understanding? So picturing 3 dimensions and how it all functions, how things fit together. Who is better at that? Visualizing 3-dimensional objectivity. Objectivity doesn't sound like the right word in that case, but objects. There we go.
Objectivity, the way I like my women. Right.
Okay, number 8. In a baby's first few months of life, whose eyesight will develop faster, men or women?
Ooh.
Okay, number 9. Who is genetically better at math? Men or women? Number 10. Who typically has better genetic hearing? Women or men?
Well, I'm partially deaf, so.
Yes, Diantha, most of
going to be
these
safe.
are done by a study. So that's where we got these. So, okay, number 11. Most babies that are born with defects and disabilities are men or women?
Ooh.
Number 12. Who is more sensitive to pain and feels more pain, men or women?
Who's more sensitive?
Who feels pain to a greater volume, men or women?
Well, men are given painkillers more often in the emergency room than women. I just saw TikTok on this
Oh,
Euro epidural.
with scientific studies.
okay.
See, I don't know the people that like that say like the no epidurals, like it's a big trophy for them to win. If somebody gave me a choice of like having no pain while something was coming out of my urethra and my wang, or having painkillers, I'd be like, yeah, painkillers. Okay.
I had good reasons.
Okay, 13. I'm going to say blank, and blank is for you to determine if it's men or women, but it's just one for this question. So there's two spots in the question where it says blank, but it's the same answer.
Okay.
So during like, okay, let me read this properly. So you can say male or female in this situation, men or women, but I think male or female fits better. So if the blank doesn't sound proper with female, or I'm sorry, with women or men, then that's because just substitute that for male or female.
Okay.
During blank fetal development, testosterone impacts the formation of the auditory system and causes the brain to block out unwanted noises and repeated sounds. When a person repeats themselves several times, the blank brain registers it as an unwanted repetitious acoustic stimuli, and they generally don't hear it. Is that the blank? Does that represent male or female, men or women?
If the sound is a woman, it's a man. If the sound is a child, it's a woman.
You may
Because
read
I
it.
block out my children all the time.
You need me to read that one again?
No, I got it.
You got
I
it?
wrote
Okay.
it down.
It was confusing enough the first time. We're good.
Okay. 14. Who is better at detecting color variation, men or women?
Color variation.
Mm-hmm. Okay, this is another one, fill in the blank. 15. In adolescence, the brain activity associated with negative emotion moves from the primitive area of the brain into the cerebral cortex, where language and reasoning centers are located. But this only happens in blank. Men or
Say that
women.
again.
In adolescence, the brain activity associated with negative emotion moves from the primitive area of the brain into the cerebral cortex, where language and reasoning centers are located. But this only happens in blank, men or women.
So I don't do math after 9 p.m. and I just realized I don't do.
You want me to read that one? Okay, so.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Yeah, I got it.
You got it? Okay, all right.
Woo!
That one actually required zero math, but
I need like a nap after that question.
yeah. Okay, so we're almost there. Maybe should we just cut it at 15, or you guys want to keep it?
No, 20.
Okay, we'll go to 20. All right. Number 16. Who suffers from more neurological disorders like dyslexia and autism throughout their life, men or women?
That's only because women are notoriously undiagnosed, at least in autism.
Do you have your answer then?
Yeah, I already wrote it down.
Oh, okay. Okay. So this one's going to be tricky. So as men and women age, blank tend to have more difficulty hearing high-pitched sounds like consonants, while blank struggle with low-pitched sounds such as vowels. So who struggles with consonants and high-pitched hearing or high-pitched sounds, and who struggles with vowels or low-pitched sounds as they get older? Nick, I'm highly disappointed in you that you don't know these. This
Hey,
seems
Nick.
like your ballpark.
Nick, remember that one chick that said that she couldn't hear low sounds when she had hearing? Was it low or high sounds when she had hearing problem? Like, remember last podcast? I think.
Yeah, I'm
Can't
not
hear a
gonna
man.
eat, Kathryn.
Fine, keep going.
All right. Few more here. And this one might be a little bit interesting. I threw it out there just because it was an interesting fact, but who has a harder time metabolizing alcohol, men or women?
And because we're all LDS here, I expect everybody to know this answer.
Yeah. Number 19, who handles sleep deprivation better, men or women?
Obviously, women.
Easy.
That's why they always wake up and they have to go take care of the kid at night when the baby's crying.
Okay, number 20, this one's kind of a sciencey one, but I'll throw it in there anyway. Whose blood contains more water and fewer red blood cells, men or women?
Boom, baby. 100%.
All right. You guys ready for the answers?
Yep.
Okay, everybody done?
Make it known I've been sick for 2 months and I'm currently on medication. So
Oh,
this
stop
game that
trying
uses
to
a lot of
threaten
brain power.
it. All right. Here we go. So number 1, who checks themselves out in the mirror more times on average during the day? What do you guys think?
Men.
Women.
Women, because they do makeup and they got to make sure that it's not like going all over the place.
No, because women notoriously hate their bodies. And so they don't want to look at themselves all day. Men love their bodies. Men
And
love to
it
look at
is.
themselves.
Whitney is correct.
Told you.
A British study found that an average man looks in the mirror 23 times per day, while women do it only 16 times per day on average. On average, men spend 10 minutes a day admiring their reflection, which is as much as 6.5 days per year. So you literally spend almost a whole week each year checking yourself out in the mirror.
I'm probably above average.
And that includes like all the guys that just stand there and stare at themselves in the mirror at the gym as well.
I didn't think about that. That's what the
You gotta
mirrors are
stand up and
for.
flex.
The body fillers.
Yeah, Jesse, I was thinking makeup application as well. But whatever. Whatever.
Okay. Number 2, who initiates divorces and breakups more, men or women?
Women.
Men initiate the reason for it, but the women overfile more often. That's
So we
true.
We got 1 vote for men, 1 vote for women. Kathryn, what do you say?
Men.
Survey says it's women.
No, that's who files more, not who initiates it more.
Research found that women initiated nearly 70% of all divorces It's often the woman who expresses more overt conflict and dissatisfaction about the state of the marriage. Men are more likely to be, quote unquote, okay in a dissatisfying relationship.
Okay, I disagree because I've also seen studies that say the opposite, that women file more, but men initiate it more.
Okay, well, according to this study.
Well, your
research
study's
found-
stupid. I marked it wrong, but your study's stupid.
I have a feeling
All right.
everyone that Whitney gets wrong is going to be stupid. Okay.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Number 3, who is more likely to be addicted to their smartphone, men or women?
Women.
Men.
Okay, we got one of each. Kathryn, what do you say?
I said women.
You said women? Answer is
I said
women.
men. Whoa, really?
A study
Wow.
found that 30% more women use their phone for 4 hours a day or longer. Research finds that 1 in 5 women said they have insecure feelings beyond normal when they are separated from their smartphones.
If you go on any social media app, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, like whatever it is, it's going to be more women than men on there.
That was
Yeah,
number
that's a good
3,
way
by
of
the way,
putting
Diantha. Yeah. Okay, number 4. Who gossips more, men or women?
Women.
Women.
Vic, what do you say?
Women.
Women? It is men.
What?
Uh-huh.
Where?
Men spend an average of 76 minutes a day chatting and gossiping with their friends or work colleagues compared to just 52 minutes for women. One study reveals that when men and women hear a juicy secret, many men will share it with someone almost immediately after learning about it. Women, on the other hand, keep it to themselves for at least 3.5 hours before spreading the news.
Interesting.
That's stupid.
Oh, now
That's what I
Kathryn's
said.
saying it's stupid.
Yeah.
I hate it because I got it wrong. That's stupid.
I didn't see that one coming, but okay,
Yeah,
whatever.
some of these are a little
Ow.
surprising. Okay.
Right, because women are all home alone with their kids and they don't got nobody to tell. They got to wait till they get to the school pickup.
Who created this? Who created this?
A
Did
woman.
you create this, Everett?
I know, we need to
Created what,
fact
these
check these
questions?
studies.
What is the source of this questionnaire?
I can send you guys the source. Actually, I think there was a couple different sources, but
Is it from
I'll send it to you
Nigeria?
afterwards. What's that?
Is it from Nigeria?
Yeah, but it's because women earn less, so we actually have to work.
Yeah, Nigeria Institute of
Catfish
like
are.
Social Studies. Wow, how did you know? No, it's not from Nigeria.
Okay,
Number,
number
5.
Okay. Number 5. Who is better able to judge a person's size just by the sound of their voice?
men.
I guessed men. I didn't know.
I
this
guess
one.
men too.
That one's men.
Yeah.
Have been shown to correctly guess a person's general appearance using their voice at about 1.5 times the rate that a woman is able to.
Okay, so not
I don't know that that's really much of a thing, but okay. It was an interesting fact, so I was like, I'll throw it out there.
Yeah, I never know.
Who is better at visually tracking objects, men or women? And who is better at visually identifying objects, including their colors, men or women?
Amen.
women.
Be women.
Men than women.
Yeah, I think men than women.
Okay, you're all correct. Men and women literally see things in different ways. Men have thicker retinas and larger M cells than women. The M cells are responsible for tracking the movement of objects. Women have more P cells, which are responsible for identifying objects as well as analyzing textures and colors.
That is why a man can stand in front of a fridge and not see what he's looking for. Whereas if he's out hunting and he
So I
can
was gonna say
see
you can see a
a
deer.
mile down the way and watch a deer go across. Yeah.
Okay, but I will say this. My girls have the innate ability to say, Daddy, I cannot find something. And I walk in and it is literally sitting right in the middle of their floor. Did you look in your room? I looked all over my room. Are you sure? Yep. It's right there in the middle of your floor. I just
We
walked
like
in.
to do that as like a game. Like, okay, you told me you looked. Let's go and see and how quick I can find it. And then it's like first thing I'm like, it's right there. And they're like, what the heck? I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, what the heck is right?
That's pretty much every time. Like, hey, did you look in your hamper? I totally looked in my hamper. You open the lid, there's like 2 things in there. The thing that they couldn't find in like maybe another shirt. Like, how difficult was that? But
Yeah.
anyways.
It is a
So-
kid thing, Shasta. It's also a man thing.
All right.
Okay, number 7. Who has
7.
better ability at 3-dimensional thinking, including object spatial?
Men.
placement?
I went with women on this one.
I went
Kathryn?
with men.
That one's men.
Yes.
That one kind of
That was
goes,
men.
that's like a almost part C, but it's, yeah, same sort of thing. Okay, number 8. In a baby's first few months of life, whose eyesight will develop faster, men or women?
Women.
Women.
I went with women.
The answer is women. In a female baby's first few months of life, their eye contact increases by over 400%. And a
I
boy's
did
will
actually know
show-
that one.
Oh, see, it's not totally stupid. Just the ones you get wrong. Are totally-
No, just that one. So I mean, I missed
only
a couple,
stupid
but
if she
that
doesn't
one I
get
got
it.
wrong was stupid.
Right. A boy will show significantly less improvement. In a study done in 100 babies on the day of their birth, girls were found to prefer looking at a young woman's face, while boys preferred moving objects, going back to the M and P cells. Who is generally genetically better at math, men or women?
Men.
Men.
Women.
Japanese men, to be more specifically.
It is men. The area of the brain that is thought to influence mathematical ability is larger in men than in women. The brain areas that control math and geometry skills also mature about 4 years earlier in men. Excuse me.
Dude, I suck at math, so I don't think that applied to me.
Well, I've kind of thought you're a half girl anyways for a long time, so there's that.
The bottom half.
Who typically has better genetic hearing, men or women?
Women.
Men.
What'd you say, Whitney?
I said women.
Women? It's women. Girls have 11% more neurons than boys in the brain centers that control language and hearing. Not only do women hear better than men, they can also better distinguish between a broader range of emotional tones like crying. So girls, I guess, oftentimes you can hear a baby cry and you're like, they're just colicky, or they really need something, or, you can kind of tell the difference. A guy's like, they're crying. That's it. It's just like, it's all the same. The baby's
That's
crying.
true.
That's
Hunger cry, wet cry. That's true.
yeah.
Yep.
They're different.
I've heard this before.
Okay. Number 11. Most babies that are born with defects and disabilities are
Men.
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 correct. Men. One major reason for all of this is that females have a spare X chromosome. Essentially, this results in redundancy that protects against certain recessive defects caused by genes on the X chromosome. For example, if a male baby is born with the gene for red-green color blindness on its X chromosome, the boy will have red-green color blindness. However, a female baby needs to have the red-green color blindness gene on both of its X chromosomes, which is much less likely to occur.
Interesting.
Yeah. Okay, who feels more pain, men or women?
Men.
Men.
I'm gonna say men.
I'm kind of thinking.
Survey says it's women. Women generally feel more pain than men. When experiencing pain, a woman's left amygdala, the part of the brain that is associated with internal functions, is activated. When men experience pain, the right amygdala is activated.
Okay, so why does it take so much longer for women to get pain medication when if a man and a woman went to the ER for the same thing, a man is more likely to get pain medication in general. He's going to get a higher dose and he's going to get it quicker.
Your tolerance for pain versus your feeling the pain are two different things.
I think it's because in general, medicine is controlled by the patriarchy.
Oh
Like
boy,
everything
here we
else.
go. Whitney turning woke.
I'm gonna
Moving
send you
on.
this TikTok.
What about the YouTube video about the man cold?
Man,
No, men are just whiny.
Real.
Men feel less pain, but they whine about it more.
yeah,
You
you
should have
guys might
clarified that
And they
feel
get more drugs.
more pain, but just be able to be like, yeah,
Women
it
are
hurts.
stronger. That's why.
Guys are like, yeah, but I stubbed my toe. You're like, I'm freaking going into labor. Like, I know, but hey, doc, can I have something for my toe? Like, that's guys.
Women start feeling the cramps and the bloating and all that crap when they're like 11 or 12. And so, I mean, they have a lot more years of having to deal with pain on a constant basis. I mean, if a guy starts feeling cramps in his stomach, he's like, dude, I got to fix this. Women are just like, well, whatever, it's gonna happen.
When I was pregnant with my last baby, like a week before I went into labor, my ex had kidney stones. And so I'm driving him to the hospital and I'm like cracking jokes and everything. And he's just like sitting there and he's just pissed and he's like yelling at me and he's mad. We get there, he won't even talk to the people. Like I have to go check him in, all the things. And I was like, hey, this is like practice for when I go into labor. Fast forward a week later, now I'm in labor. And we're driving to the hospital. I'm still just like cracking jokes. We get there. He wouldn't check me in. I had to go in and check myself in. He's like asking me questions. And every time I have a contraction, I like have to stop talking because I couldn't talk at all because it hurt so much. But I'm still just like, hey, in a great mood. We get upstairs. They're like, yeah, your baby's about to come out. You're too late for the epidural. Like, I don't know how you're still talking right now. And I was like, I don't know either, but obviously I'm a lot better than he did a week ago. So. Yeah, women can handle it better than men.
Okay, 13. I'm just going to kind of read this one out a little bit. This is one where it had two different spots to fill in the blank, but it's all the same answer. So during blank fetal development, testosterone impacts the formation of the auditory system and causes the brain to block out unwanted noises and repeated sounds. When a person repeats themselves several times, the blank brain, male or female brain, registers it as an unwanted repetition acoustic stimuli, and they generally don't hear it.
Men.
Men.
That one is men. Okay. And some of these are kind of repeating a little bit. So number 14, who is better at detecting color variations, men or women?
Women.
What do you say, Kathryn?
I said men, but I think it was supposed to be women.
Okay.
It's an earlier question.
This one is kind of a little bit of how much were you paying attention, because we just talked about this number 6, part A and B. So the answer is women. Women are better at able to detect shade variations in colors than men. Some scientists believe that sex hormones are behind the differences, as male sex hormones can change the development of the visual cortex.
See, I don't do math after 9 and I don't do science after 11. So I'm doing pretty good.
This is just throwing darts at the dartboard. Okay. Number 15, we're almost there. In adolescence, the brain activity associated with negative emotion moves from the primitive area of the brain into the cerebral cortex, where language and reasoning centers are located. But this only happens in men or women?
Women.
Male.
I don't know.
So the brain activity associated with negative emotions moves from the primitive area to the cerebral cortex, where language and reasoning centers are located.
So they can talk about their negative emotions? Is that what that means?
So this is in adolescence. Keep this in mind. So when you're an adolescent, the brain activity associated with negative emotions, so when negative emotions pop up, it moves from the primitive area of the brain into the cerebral cortex, where language and reasoning centers are located. But this only happens
more meaner verbally.
Yeah, that sounds like a girl.
Yeah.
So who in their adolescence is able to take these negative?
I said women, but I don't even know what's happening right now.
Okay, let me
I'm
just.
on medication. I don't understand
When
this.
you're younger, when you're an adolescent, when a negative emotion pops up, and it's in
It
your
moves to where your language, so like you can talk through the emotions. Is that
yeah,
what that
who moves it up so you can learn to like
gonna say
process it with language and reason.
women?
See, reason.
Men
That's
can't
more
reason
male.
anything until they're like 35.
Reason is more male.
See,
No,
women.
it's not for a teenager.
Reason and
I'm just gonna
accountability.
get it wrong and say male.
For a teenage boy, then they're like, oh, I'm gonna go do this dumb thing just because it's dumb. That's not reasoning.
That's true. The IQs go down the more boys you bring together. Can I change it to?
I totally resent that comment. My IQ is already at rock bottom. You can bring as many people in as you want. It's not going.
Resemble or resent? Which one was that?
So what do you guys guess? Men or women on this one?
I say women.
I say women.
I say women, but I wrote down male. So
It is women.
okay, I'm wrong. You better hurry up. We're exceeding the limitations of Whitney's medication.
My brain power. It's true.
Yes. Well, this is testing to see how much you know, men and women. First ones, you guys totally, you missed some of those. The simple ones, like the gossip. Who suffers from more neurological disorders like dyslexia and autism, men or women?
Men.
Men. Studies have found that this is a matter of genetics. Male brains are more prone to genetic flaws, while women require more extreme genetic mutations to develop the same conditions. See, I don't think it's necessary that we're prone to genetic flaws. I just think that we like get hit in the head so much from doing dumb stuff when we're younger that it just makes us kind of idiots.
But
So-
women really are underdiagnosed more often than men, especially for things like autism and ADHD.
Okay. So as men and women age, this is number 17, as men and women age, blank tend to have more difficult hearing higher pitched sounds like consonants, while blank struggle with low pitched sounds.
Men than women.
I agree.
Agreed.
You guys are pretty good on that one. See, the simple ones you guys couldn't get right, like who gossips and things like that. But once it turns
The
sciencey,
gossip one was a trick question.
Yeah, me too.
well, yeah, it's surprising results. It's not supposed to be a trick question because you would think that that's the way it is, but
An entire show called Gossip Girls. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm going to totally do the opposite and say men.
yeah.
Yeah. Women are known for gossiping, even if it's not the case.
Who handles sleep deprivation better, men or women?
Women,
Women.
hands down.
Nick?
Although I have an argument if it's
Is
wrong.
number 18?
This is 19.
19, thank you. Okay. Women.
I totally did skip 18. My apologies. Okay. We'll go back. We'll cycle back to 18 here in just a second. Somehow I missed that one.
Okay, so 19 is what?
19 is who handles sleep deprivation better? You
Women.
said women, Nick? Everyone says women? The answer is men.
Okay, I have an argument for men because men have to, like, as guard duty and so forth, like in the military, they have to pull like all those overnighters staying awake. So
You go
That
back
would
to
have-
caveman times, and they would be the protector. Makes
Mhm.
sense.
Yeah.
Yes. So it says a study out of Duke University revealed that men tolerate sleep deprivation better than women do. When women don't get the sleep they need, they suffer mentally and physically. They are at higher risk of developing heart disease, depression, or blood clots, while men suffer fewer consequences.
I just think of women staying up with kids.
I know, but
Right.
a firefighter has like a 72-hour shift, you know.
I
like-
know, but I don't think I slept for like 3 years when I had my last baby. Like
I
literally,
guess
I
it's
did
like
not
the
sleep.
long term, men handle sleeplessness better, or like,
Well, I mean, it's not like you stay up late one night and suddenly you develop heart disease, you know?
Oh,
No,
I stay
it-
up late
Probably
every night. I
prolonged.
probably have it.
I agree with Corey. Like, we can get in our cat naps, but like men, like it's a career oftentimes to like be on that kind of sleep schedule. So yeah, I can see how it could be men.
I'm the
Okay,
wrong
go with
person to
18.
ask. I have serious sleep problems. So,
Same.
okay, skipping back to 18 and then we'll go to 20 because I missed 18. Who has a harder time metabolizing alcohol, men or women?
Men.
Women.
It's women.
Damn
Women
it.
have a harder time metabolizing alcohol because they have less of a liver enzyme that breaks it down. There's a difference of 1,000 genes in male and female livers. These extra genes help men process alcohol faster, which means that they are less likely to feel the effects of drinking than women. Not to mention that just body mass and things, I think, play into it
Yeah.
as well.
Okay, last one.
Okay, last one. You keep
Women.
you keeping a tally?
Men.
Men.
Blood contains
I
more
knew.
red blood cells.
Yeah. In The Man Without a Face with Mel Gibson, he answered this question like 14 years ago in that movie. He said women on average have about 20 to 30% more water than a man does. That's
Why
why
is
it's
that?
women.
Boom.
I've obviously never seen that movie.
Nope,
Nick
haven't
hit
seen
it
it.
right on the head. A woman's blood contains more water and 20% fewer red blood cells than a man's.
Baby.
Yeah.
That's right.
Right.
Movie watch.
All right. So what are the scores here? Where are we at?
I
I got me a
14.
dirty dozen, right?
12. Ooh, Joshua's. Ooh, Heidi got 17.
Shasta, you rock.
It looks like Heidi's the winner so far. Brent got a perfect score. I don't know if I believe you, Brent.
How?
Brent's one of those guys that does rock, paper, scissors like this. Rock, paper, scissors. Wait for the other person to put theirs down. He's like, yeah, I totally won.
Oh my goodness.
You throw the
Interesting.
answer out there right as the question or the answer is being given.
I'm like the pretty fly for a white guy right now. Asked for a 13, but they drew a 31.
That's right. Well, okay. So Kathryn, you're a
Yes.
little over. What is that? That's 60%.
These get degrees.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it depends on what school you go to.
Good job,
College,
Heidi.
well, maybe.
Heidi did good.
So is
Brian,
Brent the only one that got 100%? Was there anybody else?
I'm surprised that Brian Georgehow missed as many as he did. That guy's a genius.
Yeah, the next highest one I saw was 17 for Heidi. Oh, Josh got 17 also.
What did you get, Whitney?
I got 14.
Oh, you were 14.
Wait,
Nick, what were
Brent,
you?
Brent Barrett's perfect score. I think he's lying. I think Brent needs to come on and Heidi needs to come on and they need to do a rock, paper, scissors the right way.
Nick, what did you get?
I got 13.
13. Okay. 12,
Ridiculous.
13, 14.
But I didn't believe in some of those answers. I think they were wrong. I think you were wrong.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. Believe them or don't believe them. Ripley's believe it or not. Leave it at that. Well, Kathryn, so we have kind of gone over here, but we have had a great time getting to know you tonight. As always, we always want to leave an invitation open. Should you want to, down the road, come back on the show, or maybe we find someone that's like, this might be a good pair.
I have never, ever, I've been on a mercy date in my lifetime, but I've never, ever been on a blind date, ever. So
Perfect.
if you guys want to set me up on a blind date, I'm totally for it.
Well,
No,
you're
so
in
we-
Kansas, so how would you feel
terrifying,
about,
so I want to do it.
what about a blind, like, virtual date? Because you're in Kansas, so it might be a little bit more tricky to find someone to.
You guys figure it out.
All right. We will have to look into it.
Yeah, we'll look into that. So we need somebody that's 5'9", cooks, and
No, 5'8". She said 5'8" would work.
5'8's the limit.
5'8". At
Someone
least,
that's aged kind of like I have, can go hiking. keep
that's
up.
right. Energetic, 6-pack. Got it. Okay.
6-pack. Oh, what if they got dad bod? I forgot to ask you about that because you went on athletic.
If he can hike, if he can keep up with me hiking, so I don't think he can really have a dad bod. I don't know.
Definitely not me.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, Alan, I'm not the 6-pack guy. I can't hike. I get
A
winded
6-pack?
walking up.
Nick can
3
hike
steps.
hiking up to the back.
Oh, I've been on a hike with Nick. No, he can't keep up.
Just saying.
Ours wasn't even a hike. It was like a walk in the park that we walked up a mountain for like a half a second. He can't keep up.
You're
It was
hiking
a
into,
tall mountain,
if you're hiking into Taco Bell, Nick's your man. Other than that, forget it.
pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
All right. So we will keep an eye out for a man for you, Kathryn, as we are doing this and whatnot. Thank you again for.
interesting question though, real quick, before we cut it off. So, there's some people saying, what if you came and visited and went hiking on theirs? Are you somebody that could travel if you found somebody that would be interested in a date?
So I have learned that like the farthest I've ever driven is an hour. I've gone an hour for a date. So,
That's brutal.
huh?
That's
For-
brutal.
Yeah, it's like I know you're being totally sarcastic because you've gone so much farther. But I don't know much about long distance dates, but I am learning that it just depends on the situation and the person. So, I mean, first maybe some long distance dates where they're coming from out of town. not far away, like their expectations are they're gonna like stay the night with you or whatever. And I've never dealt with that, but so long distance, if the rules are clear, like
What if they're like in Utah and they're like, hey, come on out, let's go skiing and hiking, or I don't know, whatever. Play tiddlywinks. Would you
have some chicken, have some sex, whatever.
it, as long as it's proprieties in place, yes.
Listen, I want to offer this out to all the women in the group, including you, Kathryn. If anyone wants to travel to go meet a guy somewhere and you don't want to go by yourself, call me and I will go with you. Because I love to travel. I'll just hang out in the hotel while you guys go on your date, or I'll like sit in the booth with you over, but I'll go with you. 100%.
Whitney will be your wingman.
I love
It's
it.
a very foreign concept to me. And I feel like if a guy wants to travel long distance, like, I don't know why he would. Like, I don't know.
Have you looked at yourself in the mirror before?
I also know